Chapter 1129. Let's do this. We'll tell Wuxia what happened at the airport yesterday and ask him when he'll be back. Mama Lin took out her phone and made a call. Lin Feng immediately pounced over and snatched the phone. Mom, Wuxia is very busy with his suspension. Don't disturb him. What kind of joke was this? Did he have to tell Yunhu about such an embarrassing thing? Wouldn't the mature image that he had built up over the years be completely ruined? She really wasn't his real mother. Who would have thought that Lin Feng could stop the Empress Dowager, but not the other person? While the two of them were talking, Yun's side had already connected with the internet call. Walking by the river, Yunhu was about to settle some follow-up matters. When he saw the voice signal on his WeChat, he was already prepared. His family would come to discuss this matter with him. What Yunhu didn't expect was that after the call went through, his mother's voice sounded surprisingly good. Son, when are you coming back? Yunhu paused, arching a brow in surprise. The procedures will take 2 more days. Come back soon. You might not know this, but when you left yesterday, Lin Feng was crying at the airport, Mother Yun said with a smile as she looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was speechless. He could vaguely hear a voice coming from the other side with a faint smile. You're crying? Yeah, he's crying his heart out. Mother Yun's smile deepened. She was clearly teasing Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked as if he was begging her to stop talking. Before the internet call went through, the heaviness in Yunhu's heart seemed to have suddenly disappeared. That day at the airport, that person had acted so nonchalantly that he thought he didn't care whether he would leave or not. The maturity that Lin Feng displayed really made him a little flustered at that moment. But now, the momentum in his heart seemed to have landed on the ground. The suffocating feeling that had been pressing on his chest for a long time also disappeared. Mom, tell him for me that I'll be back soon. Lin Feng thought to himself. What's the point of telling me? I can hear you guys on the phone. What a shame. Lin Feng felt that it would be embarrassing if he continued listening, so he stood up and said, I'm going out. Unexpectedly, the voice was heard by the person on the other end of the phone. He's here too? Yunhu stopped in his tracks. When he relaxed his brows, he gave off a special feeling. The foreign students who were walking along the river turned back. Many people would find it very strange to see foreigners in China. Actually, in other countries, some people would be interested in outstanding Asians. Whether it was his height or appearance, Yunhu fit the current aesthetic standards. When he stopped to talk on the phone, especially when the corners of his mouth curled up, many of the local girls were discussing. After all, Yunhu's smile was really handsome. Mom, please give him the phone. Lin Feng, who heard the voice over the phone, immediately grabbed his phone and wanted to escape. Call me now? After Yunhu found out that he had cried. This was too unmanly. F***ck. Was this what it meant to be a scam? Before Lin Feng could leave, Mother Lin grabbed his collar from behind. In an instant, Lin Feng was pulled back onto the sofa. What? You don't dare to accept? His own mother was trying to goad him into action. As a man, there was nothing he wouldn't dare to accept. Lin Feng reached out to take the phone. At first, he was very domineering. When he heard the voice from the other side, he didn't have enough confidence. I heard that you miss me? When he heard these words, Lin Feng exploded. You are too long-winded. When exactly are you coming back? When he said this, Lin Feng's face was a little uncomfortable. As soon as possible. Yunhu was very calm. Lin Feng. What are you doing? He wanted to hang up the phone as soon as possible. What was the meaning of suddenly calling his name? It was so F***ing awkward. Yunhu tilted his head, the corners of his lips lifting. Are you shy? Who's shy? What are you laughing at? Lin Feng changed the topic. All right, hurry up and settle the paperwork for your suspension. The entire team is waiting for you. I'm hanging up. With that, Lin Feng swiftly ended the call. He didn't give Mama Lin a chance to pull him back and directly strode out. Unexpectedly, the more he walked, the hotter his face became. In the end, he pressed his hand against the wall. It was all Yunhu's fault for asking if he was shy. On the other side, Yunhu, who had been hung up, couldn't stop smiling. Everyone was guessing who was on the other side of the phone to make him so happy. A few girls who knew how to read the mood had already noticed the eyebrows and gave up trying to strike up a conversation. But from that day onwards there was one thing. It wasn't just Big Spade. Even Qin Mo seemed to have disappeared. This was the decision given by the Esports Association. Even though Supreme Alliance had improved a lot compared to before, the Asian Cup was different from the domestic competition. They had to send the strongest team in China. The current Supreme Alliance wasn't strong enough. They had to have Qin Mo as their captain. As for Spade Z, her gender didn't affect her participation. This was a piece of good news. To all of Spade Z's fans, they heaved a sigh of relief from the bottom of their hearts. They were most afraid that Spade Z wouldn't be able to continue competing. When Feng Yi heard the news, he loosened his tie after not sleeping for a whole day. He leaned against the office chair and fell asleep with a smile. He knew Supreme Alliance wouldn't stop so easily. Representing China in the Asian Cup. That was something he had always wanted to see. Now, it was finally going to happen. This was the closest Supreme Alliance had ever been to their dreams. There was something you didn't know you hadn't tried. You really wanted to reach your destination. You met with many setbacks and even gave up a few times. Now you were finally going to reach the other side. Actually, ever since the incident started, the fans online were waiting for a reply from Almighty Qin. Such a huge incident had happened. According to Almighty Qin's personality, he would definitely seize the opportunity to release his dog and wolf. However, no one knew why there wasn't any movement. Many people couldn't help but Almighty Qin online. Still, there was no reply. What's going on? Big Spade is a girl. Shouldn't Almighty Qin be happy? Am I the only one who thinks the Almighty has gone missing? I feel like the situation is the same as 3 years ago when Supreme Alliance was participating in the National League. At that time, Almighty Qin seemed to have gone missing too. The one above. Don't scare me. I'm just guessing it might not be true. When Xiao Jing saw this scene, he put down his exercise, raised his eyes, and called his father who was in the military. The news he received was top secret. Even he didn't know what it was this time, so he asked him not to ask. When he heard this, Xiao Jing understood. Something big had happened. That's right, something big had happened. The moment he came back from the castle, he saw the military vehicle parked outside the villa before he could even park his car. A man in a white coat with a military uniform inside opened the door and looked at him. "Boss, I need to understand your psychological state. Can we talk?" At that time, Qin Mo had been driving a black Lamborghini. As a responsible navigation system, it was rather reliable. From his tone, he doesn't seem friendly. The psychologist froze when he heard this. He glanced over at the Lamborghini. What was going on? Even a car could speak now? Where did boss get such a car? He is a bad person. It's normal for him to be hostile. When Qin Mo said this, he didn't alight. He placed his arm on the window, his gaze elegant. "I'm not in a good mood. I don't want to talk to you." Every time the psychologist carried out this mission, he felt like breaking down. Boss was really harder to talk to than those criminals. He was so direct. How was he supposed to say it? After some thought, the psychologist decided to ask for help. He turned on the video on his phone. "Boss doesn't want to talk to me. What about him?" The video wasn't clear. Due to the filming conditions, it was shaky, causing the quality of the image to be especially noisy. This is the only video that the spy we sent to the Golden Triangle sent back before he died. It was a huge drug production base. One could clearly see that the entire area was filled with poppies. The flowers were in full bloom. They could see the patrolling armed mercenaries. Even their eyes carried a unique murderous aura. When they met disobedient farmers, they would use their guns to suppress them. Every one of them wore a mask. Other than the tattoos on their arms, which revealed some information, it was impossible to tell which organization they were from their appearance and clothing. This was because there were too many mercenary organizations like this in the Golden Triangle outside the borders. But no terrorist organization dared to be so arrogant. They didn't just refine and sell poppies. In the video, a group of tourists barged in by mistake. The tourists clearly identified themselves, and when the other party raised their guns, they knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. The mercenaries didn't even bother with them. After a sweep, they shouted, "We kill Chinese people, those who cut off our livelihood deserve to die. They were speaking in a foreign language. As it was a small language, it sounded arrogant. Someone at the side reminded, "Don't kill Chinese people. If the people over there find out, we will be suppressed. We won't be able to do business in the future." What are you afraid of? They are a group of Chinese pigs. If they are so capable, let them come to the Golden Triangle and kill them. It's nothing to kill a few Chinese tourists. With that, the person raised his hand and swept the tourists who were already lying on the ground. The inhumane way of doing things made the hearts of those who watched the video tremble. Moreover, the people who were killed were their own countrymen. Qin Mo watched the video. His hands, which were placed outside the window, tightened bit by bit. His gaze gradually turned cold. The psychiatrist watched from the side, his gaze probing. Qin Mo didn't need to watch to know what he was thinking. You don't have to use this video to test me. You just want to see if I'm affected by the hypnosis. I'll say it again, I'm not in a good mood and I don't want to talk. Just say what you want. The comrade who shot this video has already been sacrificed. We don't know what's going on over there. What's most worrying is that the information sent from over there clearly shows that many people in a school on the border have been psychologically controlled by their leader. The most serious situation is how to protect the hostages. Also, the other two people who went undercover have already betrayed them. Our deployment over there has been destroyed. Boss, General Qin can't leave the country due to his military rank. He asked me to ask you. You are the only one who can do this mission. Do you agree to return to the army? Qin Mo glanced up and didn't speak. The psychiatrist retracted his probing gaze and said seriously, "Boss, we are all waiting for you to come back." Without light, time passed quickly. Everything was the same as 3 years ago. Old Masterin sat in the villa, half lying on the sandalwood rocking chair. Through the big window, he could clearly see the military car parked outside. He took a sip of tea and looked at his grandson in front of him. "Have you decided to go with them?" "MH." Qin Mo's voice didn't change at all. Old Masterin tilted his head. "I thought you had long given up on being a soldier. The company is doing well in your hands and you are so interested in esports." "No." Qin Mo put down the teacup in his hand. "But I prefer to play games." Old Masterin sighed. "It seems like I can't persuade you. Go back and ask your father if you are his biological son. He only thought of you when there is no one else going on this mission. I am most familiar with the terrain around the Golden Triangle. It is the least dangerous for me to carry out this mission. The other party has a psychological expert." Qin Mo stood up and said, "The hostages won't be rescued easily." Old Masterin felt that it was more like 3 years ago. "You don't have a military rank anymore. If there is a need, I can wear it again at any time." Qin Mo's eyes were dark. "This is also the reason why you let mother marry into the Qin family. Grandfather, I am the grandson of Madame Anne and also a member of the Qin family." Old Masterin knew that he wouldn't be able to stop his grandson. After pondering for a moment, he walked to the wooden table, pulled open one of the drawers and took out an amulet. The amulet seemed to have been around for a long time. "In the past, you would take it every time you went on a mission. I thought you wouldn't need it anymore." Qin Mo took the amulet. Old Masterin watched as the tall figure disappeared in front of the door. He lifted his head and looked upstairs. The person standing there wasn't anyone else. It was Movie Queen N. She had been there all along. But she knew what kind of mission her son was going on. She was afraid that the moment she appeared, she would stop him. The sound of a car engine rang out. The Lamborghini that was parked outside the villa followed another car into the dark night. Bo Jiu received the same news the next day. The place where information was traded was always unexpected. Many people thought it was done in the dark, but in reality, it wasn't. It was the most prosperous place on Fifth Avenue. In the afternoon, it was simply a shopper's paradise. You could see people of different skin colors shopping here. CK, Louis Vuitton and other famous brands could be found here. The luxury watch shops were even more dazzling. It wasn't rare for a custom-made watch to be sold for tens of thousands of USD. One of the luxury watch shops was extremely eye-catching because it was filled with an Eastern vibe. The boss was dressed in a traditional Chinese suit. There were only 2 employees in the shop, both of them wearing cheongsams. Wearing a pair of black lace gloves, She adjusted the strap of the watch, but the words that came out of her mouth had nothing to do with the watch at all. For matters in the legal world, this is the number. For matters in the underworld, this is the number. Do you want to ask about the underworld or the legal world? Customers who came to buy watches for the first time would be frightened and leave immediately. Others would be curious and ask more questions. But no matter what kind of customer they were, the rule here was that as long as you had money, you could buy information. Apart from the rules, there were exceptions. A silver-haired youngster in a red t-shirt walked in. One of the employees paused for a moment. She strode over with her slender and fair legs. "Customer, how can I help you?" Bo Jiu raised her hand and pulled the employee's hand over. She placed a silver USB in her palm. The shape of the USB was unique. It was a Z shape. "I'm here to get the information from your boss." There were cameras in the hall where they bought watches. The moment Bo Jiu finished her sentence, the boss of the luxury watch shop walked out. The owner of the famous watch shop walked out. He was a handsome man in a tang suit, but he had a clip on his head. He looked like a character from a comic book, so people couldn't tell how old he was. "Z. It's rare for you to come personally." The boss sized up the youngster wearing a mask. "Come in, the information is ready. This time, you will definitely feel that it's worth it." Bojo looked cool. After pushing open the door, she felt like she was in a different world. "Ah, where did I get the information from?" The boss reached out and scratched his head. Bojo found a seat and sat down. "Your Alzheimer's symptoms are getting more obvious. Are all people with the surname Tang like this?" "How is that possible?" The handsome boss moved his fingers. "I just remembered. I saved it in the USB. And Z, I told you online not to talk about my age." Bojo arched a brow. "Uncle, other than QQ, you don't know anything else about electronic products, right? Times are changing. During the time you weren't around, I became self-taught," the handsome boss said as he reached out to open the document. The next moment, the video jumped out. It wasn't clear, but it was longer than the video the psychiatrist had received. Bo Jio's gaze turned colder as she watched until she saw the red tattoo on the mercenary's arm. She suddenly said, "Here, stop for a moment." Pat. The handsome boss froze the image on the video. He tilted his head and explained, "This is a very old organization. They have been sleeping for a period of time. They probably felt that they didn't earn enough money, so they reached out again." "Why? From your expression, do you know them?" Recommended article. 99 Days of Hidden Marriage. Chief, please be reserved. Author. Wan Lily. She schemed and cheated him of all his firsts. Then, she left all his assets and ran away. Who knew that the next day, she would be brought to the church with a knife? He announced loudly, "Marry or die." Chapter 11:30. I don't just know them. Bo Jio's gaze deepened, turning extremely dark. The handsome man in the tang suit smiled. "Looks like the hatred level is not low. This organization has appeared before, and this time, it appeared again. Someone recorded this video. Originally, this information was for money, but..." At this point, the handsome man in the tang suit paused. "If you can let me see what you look like in the military uniform, not only will this information be free, I can also provide you with more insider information." Bo Jio was helpless. When will the Tang family change their habits? "Z, you are stupid if you don't use all the resources you have. That's what you said to me when you weren't even 15 years old. Even though we haven't met for so many years, I'm curious. What's up with your appearance and hairstyle?" The handsome man in the tang suit pointed at Bo Jio's head. Bo Jio smiled. "I can't always look the same." The handsome man didn't dwell on this point and went straight to the point. "How about it? Do you want to join the military?" "Sure." Bo Jio placed one hand on the table and pressed her body down. "But uncle, I always thought you were in the underworld. When did you start recruiting for the military?" The handsome man took out one of the watches and pretended to study it. "You said it yourself. My surname is Tang. What identity do I have to enter?" Bo Jio always went straight to the point. The handsome man in the tang suit put down his watch and curled his thin lips. "In 3 days, The army will select 10 people from the highly qualified special forces to carry out a secret mission abroad. This secret mission is related to this organization. What I can tell you is that it's not as simple as eradicating them. 3 days ago, I received a secret report. It said that all the spies sent by the military had betrayed them. There is a psychological expert in the organization who is good at reading people's minds. At the border, 30% of the students in a school have been hypnotized by him. This time, other than destroying the enemy's communication signal, we have to infiltrate the school and find the expert. If not, we won't be able to rescue them. The school is only 150 kilometers away from the organization's base. That is outside the country while this is inside the country. This time, the organization's violent actions have violated international law. However, the situation there is tense and we can't deploy our military power, so that's why we need to hide in secret. Bojo interrupted him, her face still as ravishing as ever. I need an identity to enter the military. The handsome man in the tang suit smirked. Sure, I've already prepared the identity for you. There's just one thing. You have to stand out among the 100 Special Forces soldiers. Remember, you only have 3 days. Everything you do in the army will be used as a benchmark for your assessment. Bojo paused. She lifted her head and asked, will I get extra points if I'm too handsome? The handsome man in the tang suit was speechless. Give it to me. Bojo looked at the mirror and combed her hair. Being too handsome might cause my marks to drop. I heard that the people in the military are especially tanned and rough. I don't seem to be qualified. The handsome man put his hand on his forehead. Yes. You're the most handsome. Give me a code name first. Code name? Bojo glanced over and smiled. They can call me Sugar Daddy. The beautiful shop assistant in the Cheongsam walked over. Is it really okay for you to bully mercenaries like this? Unexpectedly, their boss actually nodded and smiled like a fox. Not bad. The beautiful shop assistant. Boss UNZ. Is it really okay for the two of you to bully people like this? Regardless of whether it was okay or not, the codename had been decided. This was the characteristic she wanted. Bojo thought about it. When those people mentioned her codename, they would definitely call her Daddy. She would first give them a show of strength by addressing them. This had always been her style. The next day, far away in the Yunhai region of China, a seemingly ordinary military vehicle drove straight from the center of the grassland. In the back of the military truck, everyone was wearing a camouflage uniform. They were carrying a military bag that weighed 10 kilograms. Every one of them looked very orthodox. There was something strange. The average age of these people wasn't very old. Logically speaking, those who could sit in such a military vehicle and come to such a place must be the top members of the military. But even so, one of them looked really young. His sitting posture wasn't the same as the others. Logically speaking, everyone should be sitting straight, but this person was leaning there lazily with a lollipop in his mouth. He had a high nose bridge, and when he turned his face, he looked like a high school student who hadn't graduated. The military even accepted people at this age? All right, let's just say that they accepted him. He should be a high-ranking member of the military compound. But they had never seen this person before. These people had either trained in the army with their fathers since they were young, or they were the elites who had been carefully selected from various military regions and troops. However, when they came here, they were immediately nothing. After all, the people who could come here were the cream of the crop. They were all phoenixes among dragons, but this guy had never seen them before. What was going on? But it was rare for him to be so tanned. This fellow's family probably sold coal, right? Brother. One of the young masters with a military aura couldn't help but speak up. Which military unit are you from? Honestly, your tanning is quite unique. I want to be like you and find a chance to bask in it. Unfortunately, I don't have the chance. Shangxi, I guess. The youngster thought for a moment and spat out 2 words. Jiang City. Jiang City? Impossible. The person said directly. I've been around the entire Jiang City. Why haven't I seen you before? Which military compound are you from? The youngster changed his sitting posture. My family is doing business. I don't live in a military compound. That's strange. Prince couldn't understand how such a person had the chance to sit with them. In addition, the other party was too small. At this moment, the military vehicle stopped. This was a desolate little station. Other than the platform full of new recruits, there were no other people. After letting them go, the military truck rumbled away again. The sun slowly set, and the sky was overcast. As the yellow soil flew in the air, only the sound of a military plane could be heard in the distance. The young man lifted his eyes and looked in the direction of the commotion. Even though there was a lazy smile on her face, there was a glint in her eyes. The King of Soldiers troop truly lived up to its name. Such a special method. Is this the first round of testing? Prince, who was standing at the side, was still looking around. He was about to place his arm on the youngster's shoulder to ask for his name. After all, he had looked around. In terms of this car, the two of them were the closest in age, so they could definitely get along well. Who would have thought that as soon as he put his arm on it? The young man exerted force and pulled him to the left, then pushed him forward. Before Prince could flare up, a sound came from the sky. It was a gunshot. Two people slid down from the two sides of the military plane, and the gunshot was right beside their feet. F***ck, what's going on? Prince was in a daze as he chewed on the grass in his mouth. He lifted his head and shouted, "Brother, look carefully, it's one of us, we are here to report." Bang! A second gunshot was heard. It directly hit a person's back. Prince stood up and was about to fight with someone. "Didn't you hear me? It's one of us." The youngster reached out and pulled him back. "You're the one who didn't understand. Look at the back of the person who shot him." Red fog. The gun is a drill too? Prince was probably like Lin Feng, a naive person. At this moment he finally understood. Are they here to test us? The youngster didn't have time to talk to him. The gunshot rang out again. There was a limit to where she could hide. Moreover, it wasn't her character to sit still and wait for death. She rolled to the side, dodging the long gun. Then she kicked the bushes beside her and leaped up. With a swoosh, she heard the sharp sound of her military knife being unsheathed. Then, Prince saw something fall from the sky. He lifted his lids to look at the top of the tree. Half of the leaves were gone, but there was one more person. The side of the military knife in the youngster's hand was pressed against the person's neck. This is a strange way to welcome new recruits, but I'm afraid of planes. Why don't we get the people flying above us to come down and have a chat? We will be in the same unit in the future. It isn't good to be so violent. F***ck. The person who was sweeping the plane took off his special goggles when he saw the scene. How did Four Eyes get discovered? Who is the person who threatened Four Eyes with a military knife? Not only did he dodge my fatal blow, but now he actually wants to have a good talk with us. This recruit is too arrogant. Just as he was about to say something, a low voice came from the walkie-talkie. A low voice came from the other side of the walkie-talkie. How's this batch? Boss. The person tugged on the rope beside him, chuckling. Not bad, they have a bright future. Is that so? The voice wasn't cold, but it gave off an oppressive feeling. Why did I hear that you flew a military plane out to pick them up? You didn't hide yourself and just wanted to show off your power to the new recruits? The person didn't speak, winking at the people beside him. He wanted to ask which of them leaked the news to their boss. The three of them glanced at each other. Were they crazy? Why would they tell their boss about their decision? We'll talk about your matters when you come back. The magnetic voice rang out again. Whoever was shot, let them go back. Do it according to the rules. Yes, boss. At this moment, how could they dare to tell their boss that a new recruit had discovered them and seen through their entire plan? They were digging their own graves. If they didn't bring this batch of new recruits to the unit, their boss would definitely send someone to investigate. Once the investigation started, they would be exposed. Land. After much consideration, that was the only thing they could do. The youngster looked at the plane that was descending lower and lower. His black hair fluttered messily along with the wind brought by the propellers of the plane. But no one knew why, but there was an indescribable sense of handsomeness. Prince muttered, "I must be blind." Isn't he Lord Bao's face? It's the least popular skin color now. Hunter's first impression of the young man was his skin color. It was a little too dark, and he looked very young too. Their plan was actually exposed by a black youngster. Thinking about it, it was really I'm the instructor who's here to bring you to the training camp. I'll also be your captain for this period of time. Codename Hunter. When he said that, the youngster shifted the military knife in her hand. The young lad shifted the military knife in his hand, and the swift movement of the knife into the scabbard made the hunter squint his eyes. Was this youngster purposely acting cool in front of him? Reality proved that the youngster didn't have that intention. She leaped down from the tree and landed lightly. She was still sucking on the lollipop, but her aura was obvious now. How did you discover that there's someone here? Hunter's voice was calm. He had learned this trick from his boss. As a qualified Special Forces soldier, even if he was infuriated, he had to pretend that he didn't care. The youngster glanced up, her voice clear. The youngster looked up and said in a clear voice, "There are two best vantage points here. One of them is barren, and the other tree has more leaves than the other trees. Moreover, the angle of the bullet is different, so the first gunshot didn't come from the military plane. Judging from the position, there should be a sniper hiding here. If I were a sniper, I would also choose this position. After getting out of the car, people's defenses are at their weakest. If a sniper is arranged here, he might be able to take out a whole bunch of people." Prince's jaw dropped when he heard that. When did this youngster discover so many things? Hadn't he been chatting with him all this while? F***ck. Was he the only one who was chatting seriously? Your observation skills aren't bad. Hunter walked towards the youngster. But if you want to stay, your observation skills aren't enough. This is just the beginning, recruit. The young man smiled, the corners of his mouth curling up lazily. Hunter didn't know why he thought of his boss when he saw the youngster's smile. What a joke. His boss's smile was the epitome of black-bellied. This youngster was probably just putting on an act. Who would have thought that the moment he had this thought? They brushed past each other. The youngster's voice carried a hint of a smile as he spoke into his ear. I wanted to show off my strength to the recruits, but I didn't manage to do so. Captain, it seems like we have to be more detailed in our future plans. F***ck. Which troop did he come from? Why was he so difficult to deal with? Sigh, I wonder what the other captains at the training camp would think if they knew about this. The youngster hung the lollipop in his hand and walked forward with a smile. At this moment, Hunter had the urge to call his boss and tell him that there was a recruit who was so powerful that he wanted to beat him up. Chapter 1131. Hunter watched the youngster's back view and suddenly lifted his rifle. Since all of you are so capable, this place is 10 kilometers away from the training ground, 9 o'clock. From now on, all of you have to carry heavy weights and carry your backpacks. 10 kilometers? Walking? Carrying heavy weights? What kind of training ground was that? Hunter arched a brow. It's just 10 kilometers. Those who can't run, don't come. As for the 7 people who were shot, you can wait here, someone will come to fetch you. With that, Hunter lifted his leg and left. The sniper who had jumped down from the tree was also swift. It was as though the forest ahead was nothing to them. In the blink of an eye, the few figures disappeared into the bushes. A voice could be heard faintly. After 2 hours, I will wait for you at the finishing point. Those who exceed the time limit will be automatically eliminated. If you are late and can't make it for dinner, you don't have to eat. F***ck. Prince hurriedly carried his backpack. The rest of them did the same. Only those who had been shot rubbed their hair violently. They knew very well that they had been eliminated. There was a car full of people when they came, but now, there was only half a car left. Those who stayed knew that they would never be able to join the legendary king of soldiers. Trekking in the forest wasn't like normal walking. No one knew what they would meet there. The recruits hadn't expected that even before the training started, the activity would be more than what they usually did in the army. Of course, stamina was the biggest test. But what Crown Prince didn't expect was that there was someone who didn't take the normal path. While he was still studying the route, the tall and slender figure with a backpack on his back had already leaped onto a tree. He reached out to take off his belt and flew to another tree with a whoosh. F***ck. Where did this guy come from? Why does he look like an ancient person? He even knows martial arts. Prince didn't forget to walk forward as he spoke. As he walked, he realized that it was too slow. Especially when his military shoes were stained with mud, It became heavier. How could he finish this place in 2 hours? They weren't familiar with the terrain, so he wouldn't be eliminated. But what if he couldn't make it for dinner? Brother. Prince thought of a way to stop the youngster from jumping off the tree again. He shouted, I have cigarettes here, do you want them? Come down and rest for a while? The young man chuckled and turned to look at him. I'm rushing for dinner. That's great, we both have the same goal. I see you flying up happily. Do you want to bring me along? Prince added, I don't only have cigarettes here. The young man tilted his head and seemed to think for a moment. All right, but for dinner tonight, if there's any meat, you have to give me half. You're so skinny. Can you eat that much? Prince was speechless. The young man sucked on the lollipop and stood on the tree. Do you still want to fly? Fei, I'll give you half. Prince weighed the pros and cons and decided that time was more important. The young man threw a rope down. Come up. Climb a tree? Prince was stumped. The youth raised his eyebrows. You're from the compound, yet you don't even know how to climb trees? How can I not know? Prince was much better than those cowards. He grabbed the rope and climbed up the tree. He was a little confused. Then, fly. One word. The youngster was already holding onto his belt and flew from one tree to another. F***ck. What happened to bringing him along? Prince wasn't prepared and his face almost crashed into the tree. Fortunately, he got used to it. However, he was still cursing in his heart. Where did this black kid come from? He was so skillful at climbing trees. An hour later, the most secretive troops were stationed at the border of the country. There was no one within 500 miles and the vegetables had to be transported by military aircraft. Here, be it the surrounding environment or the campsite, it was the most suitable for forest combat training. Many people thought that it was natural that there was no war in China. In reality, they weren't born in a peaceful era. They were born in a peaceful country. There were troops stationed at every corner of the 3,000-meter line of defense. Those forces that were eyeing China didn't barge in because of the presence of these troops. This was especially true for this place, which made all the major mercenary organizations fear it. The sun shone brightly and slowly through the forest, dyeing the shadows of the trees with a layer of rough edges. A military vehicle was parked in front of the military camp, and a man was standing beside it. The man stood in the light, and the outline of his face, from his forehead to his chin, seemed to be shining with a furry light. The edges and corners were so distinct that they looked like they had been carved. He tilted his head and lit a cigarette. His fingers were especially fair. If it wasn't for his military uniform, no one would be able to tell that he was a soldier. When Hunter arrived at the campsite, he had a gloating smile on his face. However, when he saw the figure in front of him, his mouth froze. He stood up straight and did not dare to look at anyone. He looked straight ahead and called out, "Boss." The figure glanced at him and pointed at the military vehicle. His voice was calm. "Where are the people I asked you to bring along? I feel that since it's their first time here, we should let them familiarize themselves with the surroundings so that they can enter the training state better." Hunter reported loudly. However, his heart was pounding. "That's a good idea." The figure smiled. When his thin lips curled up, his smile lingered on his face, making it hard to see his face clearly. Hunter's eyes lit up. He hadn't expected his boss to agree to his idea, until he heard the next sentence. "Since you have such an idea, it's fine to just eat vegetables for dinner. It shouldn't be a problem for them to run another 5 kilometers. As the figure spoke, he raised his hand to look at the time on his watch. "In 1 hour, report to me." What else could Hunter say? The 3 comrades standing at the side were all smiling. They were afraid that if they laughed out loud, they would end up in the same state. After the figure left, one of them placed his arm on Hunter's shoulder. One of them put his arm on the Hunter's shoulder and said, "You've gone too far this time. All right, logically speaking, you all drove the military plane there. There shouldn't be many people left. Why did you let them walk?" "I'm helping boss pick talents in advance." Hunter waved his hand. "What do you know, magician?" Magician put on his military cap. "All right, continue picking. I'm going in for dinner. I heard that there's a pot of beef today. It's a pity that someone won't be able to eat it." Hunter felt bitter, but he didn't say anything. There were 2 batches of people in front of them. Why was it so easy for Magician and the others to receive them? Yet, there was a thorn in his side. The moment Hunter thought of the black fellow, he scanned the surroundings instinctively. He definitely couldn't let anyone else know about the counterattack, especially Magician and the others. It was too embarrassing. They won't be able to leave without walking for at least 2 hours. The sniper placed his hand on Hunter's shoulder. That's a good show of strength. I'm impressed. Hunter leaned against the military vehicle. We have to let them know what this place is, especially those who got in through connections. If they don't have the ability, they should leave. I heard that Captain got in through connections too. The sniper lowered his voice. Hunter frowned. F***CK. Boss needs connections? Don't spread such rumors in the future. I'm just asking. The sniper glanced at his watch. An hour has passed. Shall we head out to take a look? The person beside him laughed. Do we need to look? We definitely won't be able to make it. We should take a shower now and wait for dinner. Isn't that right, Hunter? That's right. Unexpectedly, the moment he finished speaking, a lazy voice rang from behind. A lazy voice came from behind. Looks like we've arrived. The cars here aren't bad. The few of them turned around abruptly. He saw a dark-skinned young man carrying a military bag on his back. His camouflage pants were tucked into his military boots. After walking for 10 kilometers with a heavy load, the young man's face didn't seem to show any signs of fatigue. He was still clean and looked like a ruffian. He didn't look like someone who had come from the jungle. The person beside the youngster was clean too. However, his face seemed to have been scratched by a tree branch. He looked a little pitiful. But no matter what, the 2 of them shouldn't have appeared so quickly. They had familiarized themselves with the terrain for a week before arriving at the training ground within an hour. The 2 of them were here for the first time, but they were on par with them in terms of time. Hunter's emotions were complicated. He had wanted to show off his strength to the new recruits twice, but he failed both times. Where are we eating? The second voice rang. It was still the youngster. Hunter inhaled deeply. His throat moved up and down. In the end, he could only say, "Report first. Both of you follow me." The youngster arched a brow. I thought we would be able to eat once we arrived. Turns out we still have to wait. Hunter felt that one breath wasn't enough for him. Where did this youngster come from? Everyone who can enter the elite troop is 1 in 1,000. There's something I have to remind you. Don't come here. Whether you can stay or not will depend on your performance. The troop is here to feed you. When the young man heard this, he gave a lazy "oh." Prince, whose face was scratched, gave him a thumbs up. The youngster was amazing. He asked for food the moment he arrived. He was different. At the reporting ground, everyone has a blanket. Remember, there's only one blanket. Take care of your hygiene. Toothpaste, toothbrush, wash basin, towel, and rice bowl. Remember your own things and don't take the wrong bowl when you eat. Hunter pointed to a spot not far away. That's where you'll be staying. There will be 4 people to a room and there won't be a private bathroom. If you want to shower, go to the bathhouse on the west side. Saving water is a part of the troop's records. Training doesn't care about time, so it's best to be prepared. Prince didn't think much of it. The basic facilities of every troop wouldn't be too bad. The only difference between the special forces and normal troops was the daily training. It was said that there were 2 batches of new recruits before them. There were probably 3 batches of new recruits going through the selection process. Prince caressed his chin. He felt a little helpless. They seemed to have unintentionally offended their captain. What should they do? But Prince tilted his head. He looked at the dark-skinned youngster who had been studying the bathhouse. He didn't seem bothered at all. No, what was there to study about a bathhouse? Almighty, you have to think about the current situation. Prince felt that at this moment, as a comrade who had worked together with him, he had to remind him. He hugged the military blanket he had just received and lowered his voice. Brother, tell me the truth. Do you have a strong background? What backing? The youngster tilted his head, asking nonchalantly. Prince lowered his voice. Don't hide it from me. How would you dare to offend Captain if you don't have a strong backing? You wouldn't have been able to enter this batch of soldiers if you didn't. The youngster continued to observe the surroundings, looking distracted. Other than a strong backing, isn't there a selection process? I fought my way in. Prince. He didn't know if he should call him a master or wake him up. If he didn't have a strong backing, why didn't he keep a low profile? You must be lying to me. Prince didn't believe him. The youngster continued to walk forward. As someone who was good at imagining things, it was better to let him guess quietly. Prince really couldn't understand his new roommate. That's right, they were roommates. They had arrived at the same time. According to the order they had reported, they would definitely stay in the same room. The youngster tossed his backpack onto the lower berth the moment he entered. He observed for a moment before tossing his backpack next to him. Hunter didn't leave, mainly because he wanted to see which mountain the youngster was from. Yet, the moment he tossed his backpack onto the bed and laid the blanket, the first thing he said was, "Can we eat now?" Hunter. Prince. He was afraid that the air would suddenly turn silent. Seriously. Hunter. You brat, other than eating, don't you think about anything else? You can eat now. Bring your things to the canteen. Hunter threw this sentence and walked out first. He really wanted to tell his boss that there was a youngster in their team who deserved to be beaten up. Unfortunately, if he said it, he would definitely reveal the fact that he had been humiliated. Hence, he couldn't say it. He definitely couldn't say it. On the way to the canteen from the dormitory, no one knew the reason. The youngster suddenly stopped in her tracks. A pair of extremely dark eyes landed on a car not far away. Logically speaking, that car shouldn't be here. After all, they were in the military and everything should be military vehicles. But that car was a limited edition sports car. The gold-plated black color coupled with the smooth lines of the car body and the door that resembled a wing, it was easy to tell which model it was at first glance. Chapter 1132. Do you like this car too? Prince leaned over. You have good taste. There aren't many cars like this in the country. I wonder whose car it belongs to too. It actually drove here. The youngster didn't say a word, reaching out to touch his nose bridge before glancing at the Lamborghini. Hunter turned, crossing his arms and arching a brow. This car belongs to Captain. You better stay far away, otherwise, you'll be the unlucky ones. Captain. The youngster's gaze deepened at this moment. Hunter didn't even turn his head. You'll see him after the next 3 days. Prince wasn't interested. Someone who could drive a sports car into the army definitely had a powerful background. As compared to Captain, he was more interested in little black boy. However, what he didn't expect was that the other party really didn't care about their first meeting at all. He really took away all the beef he brought and even said one word, remuneration. Prince bit into the huge bun in his hand, eating a few mouthfuls of cabbage. He comforted himself that it was better to have food than nothing. As compared to the youngster and the rest, the earliest to arrive was half an hour later. Of course, there were still 2 hours before they arrived. Hunter didn't beat around the bush. Those who are late, go back the way you came. Those who arrive within 2 hours, follow me. Those who stayed weren't happy, but those who left weren't disappointed either. After all, they hadn't even started training and it was already like this. What kind of mission were they going to carry out for the selection process to be so strict? No one knew the specifics, but many people had already predicted that this would be a mission of no return. Those who came late really didn't have anything to eat. At first, they thought that everyone was the same. When they saw the youngster walk out of the canteen, rubbing her tummy, the others were dumbfounded. Didn't they leave at the same time? How did these 2 people get here so early? Now, Crown Prince finally understood how others looked at him in awe. He had to admit that it felt good. But why did he feel that he was using his connections to intimidate others? But before he could finish using his connections to intimidate others, the people around him seemed to want to leave. Ha! Where are you going? Even though he was using his connections to intimidate others, it was better than not being startled. The youngster stuffed a hand into her pocket. Just strolling around. We'll gather later. Prince frowned. You're still wandering around. The young man didn't turn around and disappeared in a few steps. The Crown Prince wanted to call for help, but he couldn't. Fortunately, the team leader who picked them up was still eating in the cafeteria. If he saw this scene, he would have caught the black kid and taught him a lesson. But where did that person go? How mysterious. Where did the youth go? Just look at the Lamborghini parked in the shadow of the tree. The car had been parked here for less than 3 days. But no one had ever dared to approach it. After all, when it came in, everyone in the unit knew that it was a talking sports car. If anyone approached it and touched the door, the car would automatically start and sound an alarm. In less than a minute, the boss would be standing in front of them. When that time came, trying it once was enough. The young man stood there, raised his eyebrows, and stretched out his left hand. When it sensed that someone was approaching it, the navigation system automatically activated and was about to make a sound. She said, "I like you, Chinamo," voice password correct, beginning voice recognition. The navigation system vibrated. Once it had the ability to calculate, the car shook. Master. Could it be that it was poisoned? Why would it hear its master's voice here? Little Blackie turned on the headlights and started to check the system. It was afraid that it would be poisoned. But when the youngster said the second sentence lazily, Little Blackie was 100% sure that this was its master. "Not bad, you're clean. Seems like I don't have to bathe you anymore." That's right. This youngster was Bo Gio in disguise. When the navigation system vibrated, it wasn't any slower than a human's voice. "Master, why are you here? Are you here to pick me up? Although your little vixen treats me very well, there's not a day that I don't miss you. I thought that man would leave me in America. Who would have thought that he would actually transport me here? I've checked the information. This place is too far from America. I can't go back myself. Master, there's something I must tell you. Your little vixen isn't a little vixen at all. He's a black-hearted demon king. You don't know." Just as Little Blackie was about to say something, Bo Gio interrupted him. Bo Gio suddenly interrupted him. "Someone's here." Little Blackie stopped speaking immediately, the navigation system turning into a straight line. The headlights weren't flickering either. It seemed as though the car hadn't been started at all. It wasn't anyone else, it was Hunter, the person who had brought Bo Gio and the others into the military. He scanned Bo Gio from head to toe before glancing at the Lamborghini that was parked there. He frowned. "I knew you wouldn't stay put. I don't care which unit you were in the past, but it's different here. It's best to listen to your superiors. Otherwise, regardless of where you came from or what background you have, you will be kicked out." Little Blackie wanted to move when he heard that. Bo Gio bent down and tied her shoelaces, replying, "All right." That foot was pressed against its tire. Little Black immediately understood what he meant and continued to stand still like a pine. "It seems like there's a need for a meeting," Hunter said, gesturing for Bo Gio to leave. Bo Gio didn't say much, smiling as she brushed past him. Hunter thought Little Blackie was going to say something to him, his expression guarded. He hadn't expected Little Blackie to just glance at him. F***CK. Hunter didn't think he had any status as the captain. Yet, Little Blackie hadn't violated his principles. He was furious. Hunter felt like he was going crazy. But even so, as a Special Forces soldier, he still noticed one thing. The Lamborghini was exceedingly quiet today. Did Little Blackie just look at it and didn't even touch it? Hunter muttered as he thought about it. The navigation system vibrated a few times. Even though there wasn't any sound, the ripples were telling him that the Little Blackie was his true master. He didn't even care about touching me, he could even drive me away. Now that he thought about it, Master must have infiltrated the military camp because of it. Master had never forgotten about it. He was touched. Whenever the Lamborghini was happy, it couldn't help but turn on its headlights. Just as it was turning on its headlights for the second time, a slender figure walked over from afar. Just as Hunter was still in disbelief at the back of the car, the figure's hand was already in front of the car. His face was clearly visible. He was dressed in a military uniform, looking elegant and elegant. His side profile carried a faint coldness. Who else could it be other than Chin Mo? Your 10-kilometer weight-bearing run came all the way here? Hunter's back stiffened when he heard this. He turned over and saluted. Boss. You touched Little Blackie? Chin Mo glanced at the headlights, his peach blossom eyes narrowing. Hunter shook his head immediately. No. Boss, everyone knows little Blackie is your concubine. No one dares to touch her. Don't spout nonsense. China Mo was still holding onto a cigarette. It's useless even if you change the topic. From now on, the 20-kilometer weight-bearing run will start. Hunter was completely dispirited. Boss, I really didn't touch little Blackie. Before I came, there was another little Blackie. That's right, it must be that little Blackie. That little Blackie? Chien Mo's voice was calm. Which one? Hunter was about to speak when he remembered how he had been slapped in the face previously. He instantly kept his voice down. It's just a recruit. There are so many recruits today. Chien Mo glanced over. Little Blackie. The navigation system moved. MMH? Hunter. Such an evil MH, what did it mean? More importantly, Boss didn't notice anything. Chien Mo arched a brow. Who touched you? Him. This time, the smart navigation system's response was very quick and direct. Hunter was dumbfounded. When did he touch little Blackie? Who would believe that a car could lie? Little Blackie, you can't do that as a car. Hunter still wanted to say something. The Lamborghini switched off the headlights and navigation system, looking as though it didn't want to listen to his excuses. Hunter turned his head. Chien Mo's expression remained the same. 20 kilometers. No, why didn't anyone believe him? Who else could tell him why little Black, who had always been honest and straightforward, had suddenly learned to lie? Hunter really couldn't understand. After all, he didn't know that the intelligence system would adjust according to the original owner's needs. Since Master had purposely not revealed his identity, as a qualified intelligent sports car, it would definitely keep the secret for Master. Sigh, he didn't even understand such a simple logic. However, he didn't know when Master would drive it away. The defensive facilities here were top-notch. In terms of escape, it wasn't suitable. Especially when the devil was watching over it. The next time it saw Master, it had to expose the devil's true identity. That would help it escape. The intelligence system had already formed an answer after its analysis. On the other side, Chien Mo held onto the car with one hand and lowered his waist. His voice was calm. Tell me, who was the person who touched you just now? If little Blackie had a heart, it would definitely be trembling at this moment. Fortunately, it was an intelligent system. It replied steadily. It was him. Chien Mo looked at the Lamborghini under his hand, his gaze distant. It seemed as though he wasn't looking at the car in front of him. Instead, he was looking at someone through the car. This was the only thing that fellow had left him. A car. Other than this car, that fellow seemed to have disappeared. Chien Mo tightened his grip before releasing it. That tall and slender figure seemed to give off an indescribable sense of loneliness. It seemed as though he had felt it before. He had assumed that he would be able to see that person the next day. But when he pushed the door open, it was already empty. There was nothing there. It seemed as though it had been thrown away. Chien Mo lifted the corners of his lips. He was smiling, but there wasn't a hint of a smile. On the contrary, even when he walked, his back was very empty. At the same time, in the military dormitory, Prince stood up when the youngster returned, a mysterious expression on his face. I finally know what mission we are going to carry out this time. Bo Jiao felt that it would be too hurtful if she didn't show a hint of curiosity at this moment. She asked casually, What mission? Do you see the brother on the upper bunk? He's from the Eagle Air Force. They're the best air force in China. They're pure special forces. Usually, when they're needed, they'll definitely be sent to carry out overseas missions, Crown Prince said excitedly. Bo Jiao tilted her head, signaling for him to continue. Prince lowered his voice. According to my analysis, our mission this time is related to the tourist corpses that were found in the Golden Triangle a few days ago. Someone said that the tourists were killed because a mercenary group there was trying to show off to our country. Which means the mission will be carried out in the Golden Triangle. All of a sudden, a deep voice rang out. Prince turned over. It was the Special Forces soldier from the Eagle Air Force unit that he had been discussing. Cough, was my voice that loud? That person glanced at him. Very loud. All right, brother. From today onwards, we will be on the same side. Don't bother about these details. Prince reached out and placed his hand on that person's shoulder. Let me introduce myself. I'm the chief, codename Prince. Where are my brothers? Eagle, Wolf. The purebred Special Forces soldier seemed to be a man of few words. After they finished speaking, they couldn't help but look towards the tanned youngster who was lying on the bed with his long legs crossed. Bo Jiu initially ignored their gazes. After all, her codename was too invincible. Unfortunately, her partner was too persistent. Codename. Prince reached out and knocked on the youngster's head. This time, he would have a chance to know where this youngster came from. The purebred Special Forces soldier wanted to know his identity too. After all, there weren't many people who could reach the unit in less time than him. Besides, he had seen all the youngster's actions before this. Which unit did he come from with such sharp observation skills? Bo Jiu didn't disappoint. She finally spoke, her voice still a little lazy. Army. Codename Sugar Daddy. Prince. Wolf. Sugar. Sugar Daddy? Prince repeated the two words with much difficulty. He had thought that the codename Prince was impressive enough. After hearing the other party's codename, all right, brother, I'm impressed. You're amazing. Bo Jiu didn't feel ashamed. Instead, she felt proud. I know that. Wolf shook his head, trying to wake himself up. After all, this was the codename he had chosen. He had to reevaluate what kind of person he was. It was a pity that this codename hadn't been officially entered into the unit system. Bo Jiu was actually feeling a little guilty. With such a codename, the Almighty would probably be able to recognize her immediately. He flipped over, and the corners of his mouth curled up. She could see the Almighty again. Chapter 1133. But before that, she had to solve the problem of bathing. Just as he was thinking about this, Prince unbuckled his belt and removed his camouflage combat uniform jacket, leaving only his undershirt. He had a white towel draped over his shoulder and a basin in his hand. Sugar Daddy. Prince was stuck at this point, unable to say the last word. He changed the topic. Let's go take a hot shower. Bo Jiu didn't even turn. She replied lazily, I'm not going. You've been in the jungle for more than an hour. Aren't you going to bathe? Prince widened his eyes. In the past, he had been like this in his dormitory, not washing his socks for 3 consecutive days. But he hadn't expected the expert to be like this. That explained why it was so dark. How could it not be dark if she didn't bathe? Prince shook his head and left helplessly. Wolf didn't seem interested in his surroundings at all. Bo Jiu used the basin to fill it with hot water. She removed her military boots and sat on the lower bunk to soak her feet. While she was soaking her feet, she was thinking about how she could meet the Almighty without being discovered. It was the first day of the new recruits' report. Logically speaking, they were supposed to be resting at night. But that was a normal troop. Here it was obviously different. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, when everyone was asleep. Suddenly, a whistle sounded. Wolf was the first to open his eyes. From his point of view, he should be the first one to clean up the mess. He hadn't expected there to be another person. He straightened his back, his camouflage uniform hanging on his body. The lights turned on. Hunter stood in front of the door, taking pictures of each dormitory. Gather downstairs in 30 seconds. Those who are slow, you know the consequences. His words seemed to be more powerful than the gathering post. Everyone was wearing their clothes as fast as they could. Wolf watched as the youngster turned. With a flip of his hand, the military cap was placed on his head. In reality, those who were able to stay weren't slow. Even Prince was extremely fast when he packed his things. But no matter how fast they weren't as fast as the youngster. The youngster seemed to have practiced dressing for years. In the blink of an eye, the youngster had already lowered her head to tie her shoelaces. But there was something else. The military blanket didn't seem to be folded. The 3 batches of recruits were led by 3 people. According to their estimations, this group of people was selected from the various brigades. At the very least, they should have a sense of time. However, 30 seconds was too much of a requirement for speed. Only half of the people could reach this speed. The young man was the first to come down. To be honest, Hunter actually felt that it wasn't bad for this black kid to be in his team. At the very least, he could make himself look good. Just like that, another half of the candidates were eliminated. However, at this time, an unexpected problem appeared. Whose bunk next to the door is 318? 318. Isn't he from our team? Hunter frowned. The young man in the military uniform who was the first to come down stepped forward. Sir, it's mine. The inspector looked at the teenager up and down. Why didn't you fold the blanket? The blanket wasn't folded? How could anyone make such a low-level mistake? I don't know how to fold. The young man's reply silenced the surroundings. He didn't even know how to fold his blanket. How did this guy get here? Other than the soldiers led by Hunter, the other teams all turned to look at Bo Jiao. They looked as though they were looking at an idiot who used his power to force his way in. The inspector closed the book in his hands. He started to suspect that there was a problem with their selection system. He narrowed his eyes and looked at all the information the youngster had received since the selection. He was the best fighter in the army. Not only that, his marksmanship was number 1 too. Most importantly, it was written that he was an expert in cyber attacks. Such a person had actually passed the selection as a technical soldier. But why didn't he know how to fold his blanket? Wasn't that the most basic requirement? The inspector was silent for around 5 seconds. This was the first time he had encountered a problem that even he didn't know how to solve. He called the leader in charge, Hunter, to the side. How is his performance? His observation skills are top-notch. He should be an expert in jungle warfare. Also, Hunter's voice was low. Very special. The inspector tapped the book with his fingers. How should I report to boss? Honestly, we don't know where this youngster came from. Look at today's selection. If he doesn't meet the standards, we'll send him away. If he performs well, we'll report him to boss. After listening to Hunter's words, the inspector nodded. That's the only way. Tell us about today's mission. The inspector turned, his gaze sweeping across the soldiers in front of him. His gaze paused on the youngster, hinting for him to put this matter aside. But they had just arrived and they already had a mission? Everyone was taken aback by this unexpected order. After all, they could accept training so early. They had expected that joining such a team would definitely be different from the original one. But they had a mission the moment they arrived? Was this normal? Each of you will be given a pistol and a map. This time, your mission isn't to deal with criminals. It's a military exercise. There is a garrison 100 kilometers away from our training camp. You have to destroy it before sunset. Destroy mission? Someone couldn't help but voice out. The inspector glanced at him. That's right. It's a destroy mission. Before this, we have already leaked the information to them. This means that they are more alert than usual. Then why would they destroy it? How many of them were there? It was an entire military unit. Prince was used to being in the military. The moment he heard this, he realized the difference between him and Hua Jinyao. Now, check the watch. The hunter raised his hand and said in a dignified tone, I'll be in charge. Once you're killed, the red dot will disappear. Similarly, I'll use the walkie-talkie to confirm your location. If you don't complete the mission before nightfall, it'll be considered a failure. Everyone, get in the car. Yes. A loud and clear voice rang out. Everyone's speed was extremely fast. As expected of the best soldiers chosen from all over the country. After they boarded the car, they couldn't help but glance in the direction of the youngster. It was simple. This was an important military exercise. None of them wished to be held back. Find someone to protect this brother. This was the only solution they could think of. However, they also knew very well that this method could be used during drills, but when it came to real practice, it would be useless. But no matter what, they were comrades and they represented the elite military unit. It was good to be protected. Bo Jiao sat there in silence. She was studying the map. Most people studied the terrain when they studied the map. Bo Jiao was studying the location of the power supply and the network coverage. Of course, there was the most important thing, the high ground. Under normal circumstances, grasping the high ground was equivalent to grasping the best sniping point. But since the other party was prepared, they would probably be careful in this aspect. But there was one good thing. The other party didn't know when they were going to invade. Bo Jiao sat in the back of the military vehicle. When she glanced up, a glint flashed across her dark eyes. The military vehicle drove at a high speed. In less than 2 hours, they were nearing their destination. Once you pass through this forest, you will reach the other party's training camp. I have to remind you that this forest is within their defensive perimeter. If you are discovered and shot, you will be eliminated. All right, you can set off now. The moment Hunter finished speaking, the 3 batches of recruits, about 100 of them, dispersed instantly. They started checking their equipment. It was 3:30 a.m. The best time to invade. This meant that the other party was still in a deep sleep. This operation was split into teams. Bo Jiao was in Team 1. Most of the people in Team 2 and Team 3 rushed towards their destination after entering the forest. This was reflected in Hunter's position. The red on the walkie-talkie was also reflected. Team 1 was moving as well. However, there was a difference. There was a dot that didn't move after entering. That dot was none other than Bo Jiao. Prince only stopped when he saw the youngster come to a stop. Prince naively thought that the youngster had discovered something. He asked anxiously, "Is there a sniper in the surroundings?" "No." Bo Jiao observed the humidity around her. Prince was confused. "If it isn't, why did you stop?" "Sleep." Bo Jiao spat out the word. Prince wasn't the only one who slipped and almost fell. Even the other 2 people in the dormitory wanted to knock the youngster's head open. They wanted to ask him what he was thinking. Forget it, he can stay here. At least he won't be discovered. The other teams had already decided on the youngster's position in their hearts. Such a person wasn't suitable to be here. He was more suited to be his young master. Hence, he didn't even turn his head. He walked deeper into the forest. Prince wanted to follow, but for some reason, he didn't know why. He didn't think this youngster was just going to sleep. After all, he had seen how this youngster had traversed the forest with his own eyes. Prince made a choice between the person walking in front and the youngster who was really looking for a place to sleep. He gritted his teeth and didn't walk forward. Instead, he retreated and asked, "Are you planning something?" "No." "If you didn't, you would dare to sleep during such an important military exercise. How dare you say you don't have a backer?" "Even I wouldn't dare to do that, brother." Prince resisted the urge to roast her. He lifted his feet and was about to leave when a lazy voice came from behind. A lazy voice came from behind him again. "I can tell you what I think, but only if there's a reward." Prince turned, his gaze unfriendly. "You aren't suited to be a soldier. You're suited to rob." "You flatter me." Bo Jiao found a tree and leaned against it. She sat casually, but because of her military uniform, she looked indescribably handsome. Prince gritted his teeth. "I'm not praising you. The payment is simple." Bo Jiao ignored his emotions. "Help me fold my blanket for 3 days." At the mention of this, Prince broke down. "Are you really from the army? You don't even know how to fold your blanket. Do you know how embarrassing you were just now?" Bo Jiao unwrapped a candy and placed it in her mouth. She shrugged. "I'm not good at this, but I can't help it. Go and ask any soldier who doesn't know how to fold their blanket." Prince was losing his patience. Bo Jiao changed the topic while he was still rational. "If we go in now, we will be discovered easily. Why don't we take a nap and recover our energy?" "That's not right. This is the time when humans are the most tired. If we take action now, we will have the advantage. How can we be discovered easily?" Prince wasn't just for show. He knew the benefits of taking action now. Bo Jiao was still lazy. That's if they aren't aware of our actions. If you can think of it, how can they not think of it? The commanding officer should be their regiment commander. A regiment commander doesn't even have such analytical skills. Do you think it's possible? It was like thunder. That was the only thought left in Prince's mind when he heard this. Yes. They were strong. They weren't weak either. They were all from the army. How could they not be aware of this? Prince stilled. He sat beside the youngster and raised his hand, giving her a thumbs up. He asked, "Why didn't you tell everyone just now? It would reduce the number of casualties." Bo Jiao arched a brow. "Do you think they would believe someone who doesn't even know how to fold his blanket?" Prince. He really didn't know how to believe. This was to make it easier for them to confirm each other's position. Everyone will have a recorder with a red on it. When the other comrades saw that the red hadn't moved from beginning to end, they were shocked. They didn't expect anything else. In their hearts, completing the mission was the most important thing. According to the rules of the military drill, they had to destroy all of them before the blue team, which was this team, won. They belonged to the red team. They had to destroy the enemy's camp to win. Since that was the case, time was of the essence. What they didn't expect was that just as they took the first step, something happened. Hunter wasn't able to see the entire process clearly. He only knew that the red dots on the screen were disappearing one after another. The speed was frightening. His expression changed. He immediately picked up the walkie-talkie. What's the situation? Even though this was a military drill, he was the one commanding the troops. Why did so many of them disappear the moment they started? Reporting, we've been ambushed by a sniper. Hearing this, the hunter placed his hand on his forehead. This old fox, why was he so smart when it came to him to command the battle? Previously, when their captain led the troops to destroy the camp, he didn't seem to know how to ambush them. A certain regiment commander was drinking tea in his office. How is it? Reporting, everything is going smoothly. A certain regiment commander snorted. Chin-mo, that cold brat. He only has a few tricks up his sleeves. This time, he has to get back the face he lost. Yes. The reporting soldier straightened his back and said, but regiment commander, the one commanding the troops isn't boss, it's his soldiers. A certain regiment commander's face turned red. If the soldiers lose, they lose. The reporting soldier. All right, you're the regiment commander, whatever you say is right. Let me teach his soldiers a lesson as well. Don't think that they can beat us a second time just because they beat us once. Spread the word that these little rascals like to act at night. What they care about is being stealthy. Everyone, be on your guard. Let them know that we are not to be trifled with. Yes. With a loud thud, the heels collided again. Needless to say, the regiment commander's actions were obviously effective. 80% of the 100 people sent out by the red team were gone. There were only 21 people left in the group. Hunter was really anxious. It was obvious that everyone was enjoying the battle at the same time. Magician sent a greeting immediately. Heh, I heard that you kicked a metal plate this time. Shut up. Hunter held his forehead. Why was everyone in their team so inhumane? Magician laughed. What are you worried about? Wolf is still around. All right, I have a piece of bad news for you. I just sent the red dot to boss. He should be able to see it tomorrow. Your battle results aren't good, my dear Hunter. Pah! Hunter hung up the phone and looked at the red on the screen. Another one was gone. Fortunately, it was 6 a.m. The opponent's investigation had reached a bottleneck. But even so, he didn't have any advantage. There were only 16 people left in the entire team. Everyone's position wasn't the same. It was difficult to give orders. Wait a minute. Why was there still a red dot here? Hunter's gaze shifted downwards, zooming in on the red dot. If he didn't remember wrongly, it was that youngster. Besides the fact that Hunter noticed it, the other teammates who were also looking at the red dot notifications also noticed this. They hadn't expected that the youngster who didn't know how to fold his blanket hadn't been shot. Fate really made a fool out of them. But at this moment, the red dot moved. It was indeed moving, and it was moving at a very fast speed. There was a world of difference between this and when the red dot had remained motionless in the same position before. What's wrong with the youngster? I don't know either. Even Hunter didn't understand what the youngster was doing, much less his comrades. The only one who understood was Prince. He saw the mystical technique of traversing the forest once again. It was weird too. Why wasn't anyone stopping them? The young man gave him a perfect answer when he was changing his equipment. Our comrades in front have already helped us clear the mines. Now, the enemy's instructor must be catching those who weren't sniped. They won't care about us. Moreover, who would be hiding in the forest at this time? Prince. Why did he realize that he was following a fox? They might have a chance of winning this time. Chapter 1134. But on the other side, Wolf felt that it was too difficult. Compared to the last time, it was as if they were completely annihilated this time. Especially since the red dots on his phone were decreasing. This meant that his comrades were decreasing. Wolf Fong leaned to the side, hiding very well. This wasn't strange since he was a member of the team. Moreover, he was Qin Mo's best sniper. But even so, without their captain's command, Wolf could only protect himself. He couldn't do anything. Regiment commander, we have captured the enemy captives. The informant came in and reported a number. The regiment commander tapped his fingers on the table. How many are left? 7, the informant replied. The informant continued, 2 of them have been located by our army, but the remaining 5 are particularly difficult to find. The strangest thing is that there are 2 of them that we haven't even discovered. We haven't intercepted them in the jungle. The regiment commander wasn't bothered. They can only protect themselves now. Our army will discover them the moment they make a move. It isn't strange that we didn't manage to capture them. They were just a bunch of new recruits. Since Qin Mo wasn't commanding them, there wasn't any danger. However, at this moment, Bo Jiao sneaked into the camp. Bo Jiao had already infiltrated the base. She used the terrain to form a good cover. She glanced over at Prince. They were all elites from all over the world. With one look, Prince understood what Bo Jiao meant. On the other side of the haystack, 2 soldiers were chatting. Be alert, I heard there are 7 of them. What's wrong? Didn't regiment commander say that they like to move in the dark? It's daytime now, they wouldn't be so foolish to come. The moment he finished speaking, his vision turned black. He was covered by his backpack. He wanted to shout, but the other party grabbed his throat. His teammate was the same. Bo Jiao had always been fast. Prince watched as the youngster beside him dashed out like an arrow, dragging the person down with him. This was a hidden corner. It was the most convenient place to tie someone up. MH. The 2 soldiers who were tied up tried to make some noise to let others know. Who would have thought that his hands and legs would be tied up? The other party even took off their pants and shirts. Prince still had some conscience. Let's not remove their singlets, let's leave them with some dignity. Anything. Bo Jiao straightened her military cap and tightened her belt. In just a short minute, she had changed into a new military uniform. Prince watched from the side as the youngster took the keys. He felt a little sad. He wasn't like this in the past. At the very least, they had never stripped the enemy's clothes during military exercises. How could he pull off someone's pants without batting an eyelid? Prince really wanted to give the youngster a thumbs up. At this time, there were only 5 people left in the team. After Hunter saw the 2 dots disappear, he jumped down from the surveillance vehicle and decided to change his strategy. Unexpectedly, the screen suddenly flashed. The kid that he felt was suspicious had actually managed to infiltrate the enemy's base. At the same time, it was in the military headquarters. Magician was still gloating at the red on his phone. All of a sudden, a slender and fair hand reached out from behind him and snatched his phone away. Chapter 1135. Qin Mo didn't look at him, his gaze fixed on the phone screen. His nose bridge was high, his side profile accentuated by his military uniform, making him seem noble and untouchable. Magician swallowed his saliva instinctively, afraid that he would be implicated by Hunter. It was really embarrassing for a military exercise to end up like this. But if it was him, he wouldn't have fought either. After all, there were too few of them and they were all recruits. Moreover, Commander Wu had a deep grudge against them. Definitely, he's waiting for them here. If their team had entered, they would definitely be able to complete the mission. But for the recruits, even if they were the top students of the various troops, they wouldn't be able to break through the grand scheme. Magician thought that his captain's gaze would turn cold and he would at least sneer. Unexpectedly. Who is this? Qin Mo's finger tapped on one of the red dots. The red dot flickered rapidly, completely different from the other hidden soldiers. Magician glanced over. Wolf, he's in there too. It's not him. Qin Mo turned over, his voice calm. He isn't the type. Magician didn't understand. Type? What type? Unorthodox. Qin Mo picked up the walkie-talkie beside him, his gaze deepening. Where is he? Hearing the static from the walkie-talkie, Hunter's heart trembled. Captain still found out. Reporting to Captain, he's in the middle of a military exercise. Hunter was crying in his heart when he spoke. Qin Mo replied calmly, a military exercise where the entire army was wiped out? Captain, I don't know what happened to that old fox. He actually became more cunning this time. After Hunter finished speaking, he reflected on himself. There's something wrong with my deployment. I'm willing to be punished when they return. Qin Mo didn't continue the topic. Instead, he glanced up at the red dot. Number 10, this recruit. Is there something you didn't report? The moment he joined the team last night, he discovered our ambush and even caught our sniper when we weren't paying attention. In just an hour, he leaped over the forest while carrying a heavy load. His observation and explosive power are very strong, but for some reason, he doesn't know how to fold the military blanket. He only knows how to roll it into a ball. I was planning to report on him after today's military exercise. So you're saying that you were defeated by a recruit? Magician couldn't help but ask when he heard that. Qin Mo glanced back at him. With just one glance, Magician immediately retracted his head. However, this did not stop him from gossiping. He immediately spread Hunter's words in the WeChat group. Hunter didn't need to guess to know the outcome. Should he say that he was careless in making friends or that Magician's conclusion was too accurate? Boss, why don't we end the military exercise earlier? I'll ask Wolf and the others to return. Hunter wanted to prevent the entire army from being wiped out. Qin Mo's finger swiped across the phone screen, replying casually, there's no need for that. Give me number 10's number. Hunter's eyes lit up. Captain, you're going to command? I'm going to test the recruit's ability. Qin Mo tilted his head and pointed. Position. Yes. Magician immediately locked onto the contact. Hunter wanted to ask more questions. Qin Mo turned off the walkie-talkie. At the same time, in the blue team's camp, Bojio was already smoking with the other team. How's the smoke? Not bad, brother. Which team are you from? 3 in a row, Bojio replied calmly. When Prince heard this, he coughed twice as he smoked. All right, be more alert later. Bojio continued, aren't there 5 people left in the red team? The 3 soldiers chuckled. There's only 5 of them, they probably won't dare to come out. Besides, we have a sniper with us. Don't be afraid, they won't dare to come out in broad daylight. That's true. Bojio flicked the cigarette in her hand, a faint smile on her face. You're right, they won't dare to come. Prince, do we not exist when we are standing in front of them? Honestly, brother, where did you learn to act so well? But we can't let our guard down. One of the 3 garrison soldiers opened his mouth again. According to the information we received, there's a person called Wolf in this batch of recruits. His marksmanship is especially good. He's been in the special forces before and has carried out many overseas missions, so we still have to be careful. Don't fail miserably in an easy task. Bojio raised a brow with a cigarette in her mouth. This isn't the same as the news we received. What news did you get? The 3 garrison soldiers immediately became interested. Bojio took the cigarette away, stuffing one hand into her pocket. There's a recruit in the red team who is good at disguising and hiding. His computer skills are top-notch and he's young and handsome. While Bojio was speaking, Prince was calculating the people around them, trying to figure out which of them fit the description. The soldier asked, there's such a person? What's his code name? Code name? Bojio picked up a tree branch beside her and drew 4 words on the ground. The soldiers paused when they saw it. Sugar. Daddy. Prince's lips twitched. He needed to re-evaluate his comrade's narcissism. He was really thick-skinned. Bojio didn't feel anything at all. Since she was here, she had to announce her code name, right? Right at this moment, a person with a military rank walked over from the right. He pointed at Bojio and the others. What are you doing? Watch carefully. Bojio lifted her gun without a change in expression. It wasn't a mission, just a way for them to split up. After the person left, Bojio tilted her head. Bojio tilted her head and lowered her voice. Her clear voice was obviously different from usual when it was transmitted through the walkie-talkie. Wolf, is Wolf there? There was a rustling sound coming from the other end of the walkie-talkie. "Why are you looking for Wolf?" A clear magnetic force transmitted over. Bo Jio's fingers paused heavily. Her heartbeat was obviously different. Her signal wasn't good. There should be some kind of interference device. But the signal was good. Hence, through the walkie-talkie, the voice was elegant and familiar. "I'm asking you a question. Why are you looking for Wolf?" Qin Mo tilted his head. There was a layer of air between his thin lips and the walkie-talkie. The voice was so close. It seemed as though the person was right beside her. Bo Jio's ears twitched. She changed her voice. "Reporting, Captain. I need Wolf to clear the surrounding snipers." "I can, but do you know what that means?" Qin Mo's voice always sounded lazy and indifferent no matter when he spoke. Bo Jio straightened. "I do." "Oh." Qin Mo arched a brow. He was dressed in his military uniform. When he moved, his brows looked handsome. Based on Bo Jio's understanding of the Almighty, she had to explain her analysis. Otherwise, her words wouldn't be convincing. If Wolf's Fang carries out a cleanup mission, his position will also be exposed. Bo Jio changed the topic. "But I believe that with Wolf's skills, he won't be caught within half an hour. I'm confident he can destroy their command center within this time." Bo Jio listened to the reply from the walkie-talkie. Unexpectedly, Qin Mo lifted his lips. "Did you guys hear that?" "Yes. Yes." There wasn't just one reply. Bo Jio held her forehead helplessly. Did he turn on the public channel? The Almighty was still the same as before, as black-bellied as he could be. "Wolf." Qin Mo's voice came through again. A deep voice came through the walkie-talkie. "Here. Cooperate with him." Qin Mo glanced up at the red on the screen. "I'm interested to see how he is going to destroy the command center." "Yes, boss." Wolf, who had been hiding for a long time, came out from the bushes. His perfect disguise was almost the same color as his surroundings. Bo Jio was about to speak when Qin Mo's lone voice came through. There was a hint of laziness in his voice. "Your code name." Prince thought that this black fellow was going to say the words "I need a beating" again. Who would have thought that when he turned his head, the man would turn off the walkie-talkie? Although the action was fast and handsome, for some reason, it made people feel that this guy was a little guilty. Guilty? If someone hadn't passed by at this moment, Prince would have rubbed his eyes. How could that arrogant youngster be guilty? Qin Mo arched a brow when he heard the ringing sound from the other end. Magician guessed. Something must have happened. After all, no one would hang up the call of the commander-in-chief. Qin Mo wasn't bothered. He was more concerned about the people who had entered the jungle a few hours earlier than Bo Jio. They had never expected that the key to the military demonstration would be in the hands of that youngster who didn't know how to fold a blanket. On the other side, it was already noon. The commander of the Blue Division had finally relaxed. The moment she relaxed, she felt hungry. She asked someone to prepare 2 big steamed buns and freed her hand to call Qin Mo. When Qin Mo picked up the call, he arched a brow. "Commander Wang." "Youngster Mo, you haven't had lunch, right? Do you want to come over for a meal? Let's see how long your soldiers can last." It wasn't easy for him to vent his anger. Commander Wang had to make this call. Qin Mo picked up the call. Everyone, including Hunter, listened intently. All the soldiers looked at each other and thought to themselves, "Boss, what kind of crazy thing did you do to force a regiment commander to become a show-off maniac?" Commander Wang was calling to show off. Everyone knew that. But Qin Mo lifted his thin lips. "I'll head over in a while. Commander Wang should know my taste. Since it's a banquet, it's better not to be too shabby." "Commander Wang." "I'm just showing off. You're really coming over for a meal? It's fine if you're eating, but you're acting as though you're going to rip me off." F***ck, this youngster Mo, he was a scourge wherever he went. But what could he do? He had already boasted, so he could only grit his teeth. "No problem." Qin Mo hung up the phone and reached over to fasten the last button on his military uniform. For some reason, his actions made him look like he was abstinent. Magician took the chance, leaning over to ask softly, "Boss, didn't we beat Commander Wang during the previous military drill? Why does he seem to hate us so much?" 5 times. Qin Mo tilted his head. the perfect curve of his chin on full display. Magician's mouth fell open. 5 times? When did that happen? Before I brought you guys along, I sniped an entire company. Qin Mo's voice sounded distracted. The surrounding soldiers were speechless. It was no wonder Commander Wang was behaving this way. No one would be infuriated after being wiped out 5 times. This was the reason for his hatred. Boss had actually agreed to a meal. Commander Wang probably wouldn't be too happy even if he won. Qin Mo drove his own car out of the base. Little Blackie hadn't moved for a long time, the navigation system fluctuating. It was puzzled. Why hadn't Master come to steal it after a day? You seem excited these 2 days? Qin Mo held onto the steering wheel, his words slowing the fluctuation of the navigation system. As an intelligent system, it couldn't lie. The word excited is used to describe you humans. Is that so? Qin Mo's gaze was faint. Little Blackie chose to stop talking, wishing for Master to pick it up as soon as possible. If not, it would be exposed. The speed of the Lamborghini was much faster than the military truck. Commander Wang regretted making that call. He tilted his head towards his adjutant. Isn't this person shameless? Tell me. The adjutant replied softly. Don't you always know he's like this? Regiment Commander Wang took a deep breath. Go and tell the kitchen to prepare something good. We can't embarrass ourselves. You and I will go and fetch him. Adjutant. You still have to pick him up? Commander, why did you make that call? Around half an hour later, the Lamborghini started to enter the blue team's camp. Wolf swept past the bushes, finding the uniform his comrade had prepared for him. He glanced up towards Prince. Where did you get the uniform? Prince used his chin to point at Bo Jiao. Here, this youngster took it off someone. Wolf glanced at the youngster, not asking further. When should I fire the sniper rifle? In a while, Prince and I will infiltrate the engine room. Bo Jiao adjusted her military cap, covering half of her eyes. I'll leave the periphery to you. Wolf replied. Understood. Let's go. Bo Jiao lifted her gun. In that instant, Prince found her handsome. Chapter 1136. Prince wasn't sure why they were heading to the engine room. But since things had come to this, he could only follow. There was still quite some time before they reached the engine room. Young Master was walking when he turned around and suddenly paused. Hey, Sugar Daddy. F***CK. Look back at your code name. What's that? It's our military car. That Lamborghini. Bo Jiao glanced behind her. His gaze swept over the slender figure sitting in the driver's seat. She felt the surrounding wind turning silent. His heartbeat quickened a little. There was a slight excitement in it. The dopamine concentration in her brain was rising. She didn't look away. Prince watched the black youngster's unmoving gaze. You really like this car? Bo Jiao thought to herself. What do you know? Daddy likes people who drive. F***CK. Who exactly is this person? Why is the Blue Army welcoming him? Prince couldn't understand. Bo Jiao stood there, her heart itching. It was a pity she still had things to do. Otherwise, she would blend into the crowd and take a good look at the Almighty. She decided to ask Little Blackie which room the Almighty was staying in when she returned. Bo Jiao lifted her rifle and pulled up the mask covering her face, revealing only her black spectacles. Her long legs were wrapped in a military green camouflage uniform. It was the same for her upper body. With the rifle, she looked like a soldier from the special forces stationed at the border, handsome and tough. The Lamborghini was too fast. It was just a flash. Qin Mo's handsome and elegant face left a deep impression on people. Prince turned over, a glint flashing past his eyes. F***CK. There's such a person in the military. He must have been chosen based on his looks. Bo Jiao didn't reply, her eyes focused on a single spot. Qin Mo didn't notice the 2 soldiers stationed there. After he stopped the car, Commander Wang managed to maintain his image well, a smile on his face. Come, little Mo, I just found an orchid. Give me a reward. Qin Mo reached out to push open the car door. He was dressed in a well-ironed military uniform. His waist was tied up, and his belt accentuated his long and slender legs. There was also a tassel on his shoulder, not to mention his elegant and handsome face. In an instant, the surrounding soldiers were a little aggrieved as they looked at their regiment commander. Of all the people they could have invited, why did they have to invite this devil? Qin Mo could feel the unwelcome gaze. But the Almighty had the ability to ignore this kind of gaze. With a smile on his face, he took off his white gloves and said, "Leader Wang, have you forgotten that I'm here to eat, not to admire the flowers?" Across the crowd, Bo Jiu watched him from afar. She took a glance before turning back to take another look. In the end, she shook her head. As expected, beauty is the bane of men. Beauty? Where are they? Prince looked around but didn't see any female soldiers. Bo Jiu didn't reply. She glanced up at the location of the red dot. She knew that Wolf was already on the move. She turned and took advantage of the time when everyone was welcoming Qin Mo to sneak into the blue team's engine room with Prince. It was impossible for the engine room to be unguarded. But Bo Jiu was wearing the military uniform here. As soon as he walked in, he took out a pack of cigarettes. A soldier was still typing inside. The moment he turned, Bo Jiu shot him in the chest. There weren't any bullets in the gun and it was silenced. When it hit a person, it would only emit red smoke. The soldier who was shot widened his eyes. He was about to shout for help. Bo Jiu placed a hand on his body, her voice calm. "According to the rules of the military demonstration, you have already sacrificed yourself. If you continue to speak, you will be breaking the rules." The soldier was still sizing up the youngster's uniform. When he understood what was going on, he grabbed his hair fiercely. Bo Jiu laughed lightly and stuffed a cigarette into his mouth. She reached out and took the walkie-talkie that he was about to take out. "I'll take care of this for you." The soldier. F***CK, where did she come from? One of the blue dots on the map suddenly disappeared. Someone would definitely ask. After all, the blue team had a blue dot to observe them. "Hello, hello, hello, number 114, what's going on?" Bo Jiu picked up the walkie-talkie and turned her head. "Nothing, I just removed the sensor." "Be careful." "All right." After the call ended, the person on the other side was still worried. He said to the two soldiers around him, "Go to the engine room and see what happened." "Yes." After receiving the order, the two of them picked up their guns and walked toward the direction of the engine room. Bo Jiu was already seated in front of the computer with the walkie-talkie in her hand. She placed both her hands on the keyboard, typing loudly. Prince glanced over in shock. He could only see the lines of code on the screen, watching the speed of the youth's typing. Was this guy really a technical soldier? A technical soldier who was better at jungle combat than him? Prince felt as though he had suffered a fatal blow. As she typed, she didn't forget to contact Wolf. "Begin." "All right." As Wolf's words fell, a loud bang was heard. Another blue dot disappeared from the map. "Continue." Bo Jiu tapped the enter key and the image on the screen changed instantly. Bang. The blue team's second sniper clutched his chest blankly. He had no idea how he had died. At this moment, the clattering sound filled the entire command center of the blue team. Their commander had gone for lunch and only the adjutant was left. What's going on? Why did the blue dots on their side disappear? Reporting. The technical soldier's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Someone hacked into our network. It's a virus. We're trying to get rid of it. When will it be fixed?" "This. I'm not sure yet." "You don't know?" The adjutant looked at the image and instinctively felt that something was amiss. "It's the red team. Inform our commander immediately." "I'm afraid it's too late." The technical soldier paused. "In 2 minutes, our command center will be theirs." The adjutant turned, his gaze wavering. "What did you say?" "I tried to defend but I wasn't able to do so." This was the first time the technical soldier had encountered such a situation. Was there something wrong with the information they had received? Was there such a person on the red team? When the adjutant heard this, he was so shocked that he fell back into his chair. Then he said, "That's impossible. If we want to seize command, we have to enter the engine room first." "Engine room? Contact the snipers lying in ambush." "Yes." The technical soldier had wanted to contact them through the walkie-talkie but All of the walkie-talkies had lost their signal. This wasn't a coincidence. It definitely wasn't a coincidence. The virus created by Z wouldn't be able to snatch the command away. At the very least, they had to cut off their communication. Bo Jio sat in front of the computer, her posture relaxed. She wasn't afraid of the camera above her since her face was covered up tightly. The color drained from the technical soldier's face. His first reaction was to check the surveillance in the engine room. In an instant, on the screen in the command center, there was only a youngster with a black scarf and a rifle by her side. The youngster seemed to know someone was looking at her. She lifted her head and glanced towards the camera. She even extended her hand to greet the technical soldier. "Hi, brother from the blue team." The veins on the technical soldier's forehead were about to pop. "Who's your brother?" At this moment, Commander Wang had the same thoughts. Especially after Qin Mo sat down and started to order. He wasn't treating him as an outsider. Fortunately, he was confident this time. Commander Wang's heart ached for his fish. This Mo brat, he didn't order anything after coming, acting as though he was interested in his fish and wanted to cook it. His tone was as light as a breeze and as calm as the clouds. Commander Wang treasured his fish. It was famous within a few 100 miles. A soldier at the side said, "This is our commander's treasure, you should choose something else." "Treasure?" Qin Mo chuckled. "All the more reason to have a taste." Commander Wang took a deep breath. No, this Mo brat was intentionally angering him. He couldn't fall for it. "It's just a fish, it's fine." Commander Wang waved his hands. "Ha!" The soldier was in a daze. Commander Wang replied, "What, huh?" "Leave it to the kitchen, cook it." The soldier couldn't believe it, so he got this fish. Regiment Commander Wang changed the water for him every day and treated him like a treasure. Now that he was being treated as a dish, he probably wanted to cry. Commander Wang watched as the kitchen went over to scoop it up, his teeth clenched. His heart was bleeding. But Qin Mo exuded a noble aura, drinking his tea as though everything around him had nothing to do with him, including the fish. Commander Wang regretted making the call once again. But since things had come to this, he might as well brag to the end, at least he would feel better. "Young Ladimo, there are only 4 or 5 of you left. If you can't do it, just send them back. You aren't the one in command, why are you still practicing? It's just a waste of time." Commander Wang felt much better after saying that. However, it just so happened that the person who was supposed to give in didn't give in. He even took a sip of his tea elegantly. "Wang Tuan, the key is to win by surprise. The number of people is not the key." Commander Wang shook his head with a smile. "You don't want to admit defeat. You only have Wolf and you think you can come and go as you please? The rest of the recruits will probably be eliminated soon. It's just a matter of time." With that, he raised his hand, pointing at the red dot. Look, another one disappeared. But after that, Commander Wang paused. Regiment Commander Wang was stunned. Other than the red dot that had disappeared, there was another red in the center of their territory. Chapter 1137. How did this happen? Commander Wang bolted up. He was about to call for help. Just then the adjutant strode in. Before he could say a word, the beeping alarm resounded throughout the entire military camp. "What's going on?" Commander Wang raged. The adjutant knew it was too late. Someone infiltrated the engine room. Using some unknown method, the entire electronic command system is in his hands. Where's the technical soldier? Commander Wang couldn't be bothered about Qin Mo's presence. He wanted to know if there was a way to salvage the situation. The adjutant shook his head. There's no way. How did someone infiltrate the engine room? What are the snipers doing? Commander Wang was getting more and more furious. The adjutant was helpless. The other party didn't enter the forest immediately. He probably came after daybreak and disguised himself as one of us. Moreover, the timing of the ambush was impeccable. After infiltrating the engine room, Wolf followed immediately, wiping out most of the snipers. Are you saying that we lost to these two? Regiment Commander Wang wanted to curse out loud. The adjutant felt ashamed. To be precise, there are 3 of them. It's just that the third one seems to have nothing to do. Most importantly, it's that technical soldier. This is a mistake in our investigation. We didn't expect such a person to be hidden among the recruits. The adjutant felt ashamed. More accurately, there were 3 of them, but the third one seemed to be idling around. Most importantly, the technical soldier. This was a mistake in our investigation. We hadn't expected such a person to be hidden among the recruits. Commander Wang paced back and forth in anger. What about the 10 people in the engine room? They couldn't stop him? It seems like they've all been eliminated. When the adjutant said this, his face was a little hot. Commander Wang didn't want to ask any more. 10 of them couldn't defeat a technical soldier. Speaking of which, how would a technical soldier know about jungle warfare? After Commander Wang calmed down, he was about to ponder over the question when he turned to see a certain someone drinking tea leisurely. He seemed to have understood something. You knew that your soldiers would be like this. Commander Wang felt like he had asked a stupid question. Wait a minute. If that was the case, what about the meal? Commander Wang narrowed his eyes. You purposely agreed to this meal to lower my guard, to lure me away so that your troops can ambush us. Little Mo, when will you be able to have a fair fight with me? Mo's eyes narrowed. Mo's face darkened. Mo sat there, his handsome face tilted slightly. He said slowly, Regiment Wang, I only agreed to this meal because I took a fancy to your fish. As for lowering your guard, you weren't cautious from the start. After all, the recruits we sent are our regiment's recruits. The adjutant listened at the side. His first action was to hug Regiment Commander Wang's waist. He was afraid that the captain would throw the teapot at young Master Qin. Why was young Master Qin even mentioning the fish at this time? Don't stop me. This time, I'm going to beat up this icy brat. Commander Wang's voice was extremely loud. The adjutant lowered his voice. Regiment Commander, you are no longer the company commander. Be careful of your image. The words, pay attention to the influence, still worked. Chapter 1138. Commander Wang, you can check if you're interested. Mo stood up, looking handsome in his military uniform. Even though it was a shameless remark, he said it in a polite manner. It seems like Commander Wang isn't in the mood to have lunch with me. I'll pack the boiled fish and bring it back. Adjutant. It's fine if you dine and dash, but you want to take it back? Young Master Qin, you're really attracting hatred. Commander Wang didn't want to talk to him anymore. The adjutant finally got a taste of what it meant by, it's easier to invite Buddha than to send him away. It wasn't easy for young Master Qin to say that he was going to do it. So be it, he could send him away quickly so he wouldn't have to fight. The main point was that with his age, he wouldn't be able to defeat young Master Qin. Commander Wang returned to his seat, taking a sip of cold tea. Is he gone? Yes. The adjutant nodded. Commander Wang wanted to retort but someone entered at this moment, hence, he had to maintain his imposing image. Report. Come in. Commander, we found Wolf's tracks, we're chasing him. Commander Wang sighed. What's there to chase? Come back. Come back. The reporter was confused. Commander Wang pointed to the black screen. The command center is in their hands. It means that the military exercise is over. Over? When did that happen? The Blue Army was still in a daze. On the other hand, the Red Army looked at the 3 figures that jumped out of the jungle. They were speechless. As the first batch of people who had been ambushed, they never expected that they would actually win. And it was because of that person. The recruits from the Red Army glanced over at the youngster who was tying his shoelaces. The young man's disguise was perfect. From head to toe, he was wearing the Blue Army's combat uniform. There wasn't even a single flaw in his disguise. The only distinguishable part was his face. It was indeed the person on their side who didn't even know how to fold a military blanket. They had been annihilated by a recruit. Commander Wang wasn't happy but he wanted to poach him over. That was why he had asked Mo. That brat had already turned into a spirit. He was extremely vigilant and didn't say anything. Commander Wang narrowed his eyes, contacting the technical soldier. Show me the footage from the engine room. He also wanted to see which unit this person came from so that he could find the other party's original unit and snatch the person over. Unexpectedly, there was a video. However, in the video, all that could be seen was that person's clean and efficient movements. With a sideways swing of his gun, he directly eliminated his opponent. It was impossible to tell what he looked like. Because that person's face was covered with a black mask, the only thing that could be seen was a pair of extremely black eyes. It was impossible to tell who this person was. Then, there was the sound of a slender finger being lifted. That kind of speed was rare. Similarly, the speed at which this person left was also unprecedentedly fast. He didn't look like a recruit at all. Instead, it seemed like something that Kid Mo's team would do. They came and went without a trace, leaving no trace behind. It was only now that Regiment Commander Wang realized that he had underestimated his opponent in this military exercise. This was a premeditated invasion. Compared to overseas missions, it was nothing. However, who was this recruit? What was his identity? Where did he come from? How could a military exercise be so mysterious? What kind of mission was this group of people going on? Thinking about this, Regiment Commander Wang understood. That youngster Qin Mo was using them as practice. He was using this military exercise to pick out recruits. Regiment Commander Wang was right. That was the reality. 3 batches of recruits. From over 100 people, there were only around 20 people left. Bo Jiu was the one who was picked out again. Her execution ability was strong, but her ability to take care of herself was terrible. How did such a person become a soldier? The inspector paused once more. After some thought, he decided it was time to report to his captain. At this moment, while everyone was eating in the canteen, Bo Jiu walked towards the Lamborghini that was parked under the shade of the tree. When little Blackie started up, the entire car was filled with excitement. It knew that its master would definitely come looking for it. It was just a matter of time. After the voice unlocked the car, the navigation system sent out a message. "Master, are you ready? I have enough fuel. You can drive me out now." "Who said I was going to drive you?" Bo Jiu scanned the surroundings. "Which room is the Almighty staying in?" "Little Blackie." "No, Master, what exactly are you here for? Aren't you here to look for me?" The navigation system vibrated twice. 9 o'clock, 3rd floor. 9 o'clock, 3rd floor? Bo Jiu glanced up. It wasn't easy to navigate. Coincidentally, she saw a soldier carrying a bowl of food into the room. "Hey, what's that in your hand?" The soldier turned and smiled. "Captain, it's a bag of boiled fish from the Blue Army. The kitchen heated it up and I'm bringing it in." "I have something to look for, Captain, I'll bring it in," Bo Jiu replied naturally. The soldier didn't suspect anything. He was in a hurry to return to the canteen since it wasn't early anymore. Bo Jiu took the food and prepared to meet the Almighty. Little Blackie listened at the side. Humans were really heartless. It had thought that its master couldn't bear to leave him, but it turned out that she couldn't bear to leave the devil. Bo Jiu really wanted to meet the Almighty. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken such a risk. The Almighty probably wouldn't be able to recognize her. After all, her appearance, clothing, and skin color had changed greatly. It shouldn't be a problem. However, just in case, it was better for her to stay low when she went in later. Bo Jiu was ready. She raised her hand and knocked on the door. She heard a voice coming from the other side of the door. "Come in." Bo Jiu pushed the door open and walked in. The first thing she saw was the military pants on the wooden chair. There was also a leather belt hanging over it. There were also the military boots on the floor. Through the hazy glass door, she could hear the sound of the shower. She could vaguely see his tall and slender back. The lines were smooth, strong and perfect, but it wasn't especially sincere. The Almighty was showering? Her heartbeat was clearly different. Through the glass door, Bo Jiu glanced over. It was mainly because the back view was too attractive. Bo Jiu couldn't control her gaze. Her face was a little hot, but it didn't affect her appreciation of the Almighty's beauty. It was a pity that good times didn't last long. As the figure reached out, the shower stopped and there was no sound. Chapter 1139. She had just entered and he was asking her to leave? Bojo arched a brow. She hadn't seen enough. She had to find a reason to stay longer. She leaned against the wall, changing her tone as she admired the Almighty's beautiful back. There aren't any steamed buns in the canteen, so I got some rice for Captain. Qin Mo paused for a moment. His voice full of charisma followed. A new soldier? The next moment, there was a loud crash. It was the sound of the wooden door being pulled open. Bojo immediately lowered her head, pretending to be arranging the rice bowls. What was the Almighty up to? Why didn't he inform her before coming out? Bojo's heart skipped a beat. Fortunately, her face was dark, otherwise, he would have noticed the commotion. Fortunately, the Almighty's back was facing her when he came out. He held a towel with one hand, caressing his black hair in front of an average-sized mirror. Bojo heaved a sigh of relief, her voice flawless. Reporting he's new. This tone? A northerner? Qin Mo wiped his hair with one hand, his black hair covering his eyes. Bojo couldn't see his face from her position, but it was still a beautiful sight. Sunlight slowly seeped in through the large window, dyeing his shadow with a layer of fur. Qin Mo, who had just showered, was only wearing a pair of brown army pants with a black leather belt. His tall and straight back was curvy enough to make people's noses bleed as he lifted his arms. The water droplets on his hair hadn't dried yet. The sunlight shone in, making everyone's throat tighten. Seriously, the Almighty's actions were against the rules. Bojo was afraid she would give herself away if she continued looking. While the Almighty was still drying his hair, she replied, "Captain, I'll be heading out." "All right." Even someone as smart as Qin Mo wouldn't pay attention to a soldier who was delivering food after a shower. When Bojo closed the door, she caught sight of the person who had finished drying his hair. He picked up the gun at the side and tilted his head to take aim. His black hair and the water droplets splashed onto his handsome face, his side profile etched into a silhouette. Bojo glanced at him subconsciously. He was too handsome. The handsome Almighty in his military uniform always made her heart itch. Bojo felt that this wasn't good. She had to restrain herself, so she didn't stay any longer. When Qin Mo heard the sound of the door closing, he looked over and frowned. When did they change the fireman? Bojo came downstairs, prepared to have a good talk with Little Blackie. Little Black had the same idea. It had to reveal the true face of the great Demon King, who knew that its program had just started and it hadn't even finished speaking. The owner asked, "What's the Almighty's daily routine?" Xiao Hei's eyes twitched. "Master, you've been bewitched by this man." As a competent smart car, I think we should have a chat about this little vixen's character first. Character. Bojo arched a brow. What would a car like you know about character? Give me the data. Little Black. Master, why are you asking about his routine? Bojo swept a glance at the recruits who were about to walk over. She tilted her head and adjusted her military cap, using it as a cover. She didn't stop her voice. Of course it's to admire the Almighty in his military uniform. When I went up just now, the Almighty was bathing and I didn't get a chance to take a good look. Now that I'm in the dark and he's out in the open, he can see everything. Little Blackie analyzed the data he had obtained ever since he had met Qin Mo. Master, is it really okay for you to be so smitten? It's perfect for the Almighty. Bojo tilted her head. Even in the dark, a devilish smile could be seen. What else could Little Blackie say? He decided to ask the netizens while it was being activated. His master was so bewitched by this little vixen that she didn't even care about him. What should he do? The netizens' replies were the most hurtful. He could only cry in silence. It was easy to get the data. After Bojo got what she wanted, she turned and placed her long legs on the wheel. Remember, cover for me. It'll be troublesome if the Almighty finds out I'm here. Little Blackie wavered. Indeed, it will be troublesome. Master, I thought your intelligence had been eaten away by beauty. Thankfully, you still have a bit of consciousness left. I'm really touched by your words. Bojo arched a brow. Your car is good at everything but it talks too much. I'll apply to wash it tomorrow. I don't think you can. Ever since I came here, the great Demon King has been washing my car personally. But Master, to be honest, the great Demon King must hate you. The day you left, he seemed a little strange. Little Black didn't understand human emotions, so he could only explain it on the surface. Bo Jiu clenched her fists before releasing them. Her tone sounded nonchalant. I won't let the Almighty find out before I destroy the organization. Little Blackie didn't reply. From a certain perspective, he trusted his master's disguise. Bo Jiu's disguise was indeed good. But even the best disguise couldn't stop the Almighty from noticing her. This is his information? Qin Mo sat in the light. He was already dressed in his military uniform. From his forehead to his chin, he seemed to be emitting a noble light. Yes. Hunter nodded. Almost the entire operation team is here, which means that they can all see the information of recruit number 10. When did the army recruit such a genius? Magician was still in disbelief. He's young and can fight. Why didn't he write a code name? The photo is blacked out. Nothing can be seen. Hunter, did you get the wrong information? Hunter was speechless. This is the information I got. A technical soldier that can fight in the wilderness, our army has unlimited potential. Magician frowned. Such a person should be in the state security. Why is he here? It would be strange if the state security didn't snatch him away. Hunter arched a brow. You're asking me? He might even be willing to join us. Magician chuckled, placing his arm on Hunter's shoulder. If that's the case, it's understandable that you got slapped in the face when you went to fetch him. Even Commander Wang was furious and anxious, asking boss many times who he was. They wanted to snatch him away. With that, Magician glanced behind him. Wolf, do you have any concrete understanding of him since he was in the same dormitory? Wolf's voice was deep. He's skilled, observant and vigilant, but his basic living skills are lacking. He doesn't seem like someone from the army. Doesn't seem like someone from the army? Why? Magician was curious. Chapter 1140. Magician wanted to say something, but Qin Mo opened his mouth. Qin Mo, who was sitting on the other side, opened his mouth. His voice was indifferent. Go to the training ground and ask. 5 words. The decision was made. The operation team was indeed interested in this new technical soldier. When they received the news, Bo Jiu was still training. She carried a gun and crawled forward while shooting from a distance. Of course, the most important thing was running with weights. Number 10. The instructor's voice was hoarse in the hot weather. Step out. Bo Jiu paused before running over. Her face was still dark, but it wasn't ugly. Follow me. The instructor sized her up and prepared to bring her away. Prince watched from the side, wondering if this person was going to be eliminated. But after some thought, it wasn't possible since the black youngster had done a great job. What was he going to do? When the instructor called for her, Bo Jiu assumed it was because she hadn't folded her blanket. It wasn't the first time after all. Just as Bo Jiu was about to tell the instructor that she wasn't able to fold tofu, a tall figure appeared. After turning a corner, he saw a slender figure standing there. The man was wearing a military uniform with a tassel on his shoulder. One of his hands was hanging by his side. Perhaps it was because the sun was too bright, or perhaps he had just taken a shower, but when he stood there, his pitch-black hair seemed to be plated with a layer of light. He wasn't the only one there. There were a few other officers, but none of them could compare to that person's outstanding looks, especially when he was dressed in a military uniform. Bo Jiu's first reaction was, oh no. His long legs didn't move. The person on the other side had already finished speaking and looked up at her. Bo Jiu lowered her lids, trying to cover her face with the military cap. It was effective. After all, they weren't very close to each other. But even so, it was still very dangerous. She couldn't escape. He's here. The hunter straightened his back a little. Qin Mo tilted his head. His gaze hadn't landed yet. Magician asked, oh right, why doesn't the recruit have a code name? Yes. Wolf's tone had always been calm. It's probably because it's too unique and can't be written on the information sheet. Magician arched a brow. What's his name? Sugar Daddy. Wolf paused for a moment when he said that. Magician's expression changed. F*CK, are you serious about this code name? That's what he said. Wolf also didn't know how to come up with such a name. A few people were talking. No one noticed Qin Mo's sudden pause when he heard the codename. Then, his gaze fell on the figure who was walking towards him with his head lowered. The figure was neither tall nor short. His military cap was pulled down very low, making it impossible to see his appearance. Only his chin was revealed, and his skin was very dark. The camouflage combat uniform had been ruined by the young man to the point where it was completely unrecognizable. If this person was thrown onto the training ground, he would be nothing more than an ordinary recruit. Qin Mo's eyes dimmed. There seemed to be something churning in them, like the deep sea of the night. "Sir, I've brought him here." The instructor saluted as soon as he touched the ground with his heels. Bo Jiu raised her hand as well. Her actions didn't seem out of place. After all, the more flustered she was, the more likely the Almighty would recognize her. With her current attire, skin tone, and the military cap as a cover, she could try her luck. But for some reason, she felt as though she had raised her hand for too long. "Return to the team," a voice rang beside her ear. It was Qin Mo's words to the instructor. The instructor replied, "Yes," before jogging back in the direction he had come from. Bo Jiu heaved a sigh of relief. But very quickly, she regained her composure. Her gaze landed on the pair of military boots that was getting closer and closer. Her heartbeat quickened. He heard the man's voice. Age. It wasn't a safe question. By asking this question, it meant that the Almighty was treating her like a recruit. Bo Jiu changed her voice. 19. Army background? Qin Mo's gaze deepened when he asked the question. His gaze landed on the top of the person's head. His expression still noble and indifferent. Magician and the others didn't see anything. They still felt that there wasn't anything wrong with the question. In the past, whenever a recruit joined the team, the captain would ask the same question. Bo Jiu could tell from the voice that they were very close, but everything was within a safe range. The more they were like this, the more it meant that everything was going according to plan. Yes. Bo Jiu lowered her head further. The voice by her ear asked slowly with a unique nonchalance. "Don't the people from the army know how to fold their blankets?" Bo Jiu replied directly, "Sir, I'm the only one who doesn't know how to do it. Just now, your roommate said that you don't look like you came from the military. What do you think?" Qin Mo asked slowly. Bo Jiu immediately realized that it was indeed a loophole that she didn't know how to fold her blankets. But she couldn't let the Almighty know about this loophole. Bo Jiu found an excuse. "Sir, they said the same thing when I was in the army. They almost kicked me back home because of this. Fortunately, my other achievements made up for it. That's why I stayed in the army. I heard that the other units have strict requirements." "Of course. Which soldier doesn't know how to fold their blankets?" Magician said, "But your other results are indeed outstanding. You are a technical soldier. Why would you want to join us? You should have a better place to go. There isn't a soldier who doesn't want to join the elite soldiers unit. I'm no exception." As long as it wasn't the Almighty's question, Bo Jiu didn't feel any pressure answering. Magician and Wolf looked at each other. There wasn't anything wrong with this reason, but it was a little far-fetched. However, he didn't know what else to ask. After all, he needed a few more days to understand more. Whether it was Magician or Hunter, both of them thought that this was enough for them to return to the team. Unexpectedly, "You guys go back first." Qin Mo turned his head, his voice calm. The few people in the operation team were puzzled. They go back first? Why? Could it be that boss wanted to ask this recruit alone? After figuring this out, Magician and the rest replied, "Yes." He moved very quickly, disappearing into the horizon in 3 or 4 steps. Bo Jiu was still thinking about what the Almighty would ask her after sending them away. It would probably be something related to computers or hacking. How should she deal with it? However, in the next second, her brain froze. It wasn't because of anything else. Instead, it was because of the words that rang in her ears. "Sugar Daddy, when are you going to stop using it?" Chapter 1141. In that instant, Bo Jiu froze. Bo Jiu froze, her heart clenching. That voice was careless. But it also meant that her disguise had been exposed. The nickname Sugar Daddy was too harmful. Bo Jiao was still thinking about how to explain why she was in the military. On the other side, Qin Mo spoke again with a hint of coldness. What is it? You don't even have the courage to look up at me? Bo Jiao could only bite the bullet and look up. She saw the cold and handsome face and the frown on his face. Did you go to Africa? It was obvious that the Almighty didn't like her skin color. If not, he wouldn't have looked so disgusted. Bo Jiao felt that her skin color was much darker than the Almighty's. It was ugly. It's a disguise. Qin Mo sized the youngster up. Come over. Bo Jiao took a step forward. Qin Mo watched her, his left hand in his pocket tightening. His military uniform was ramrod straight, his gaze deep as he asked, "Why are you here?" This time, someone from the military looked for me to join the operation team for an overseas mission. Bo Jiao was worried that the Almighty would reject her, hence, she decided to tell him the truth. After hearing Bo Jiao's words, Qin Mo chuckled. As expected, it wasn't because of him. He released his left hand, the emotions in his eyes fading. I thought Z liked to be alone and felt that everyone was a burden. She would abandon anyone. Bo Jiao opened her mouth, wanting to say something. That person turned around indifferently. His tall and straight back was filled with a sense of distance. His long legs paused for a moment. I'll give you 1 day to leave this place. Bo Jiao couldn't call him back. She couldn't understand the Almighty's reaction. Hadn't the Almighty left first that day? Was there something she didn't know? Bo Jiao stilled. Her first reaction was to look for her Lamborghini and ask about the situation that day. When Little Blackie was opened again, it was delighted. After all, Master had always been secretive when she saw it. She had never been so open before. She was definitely going to drive it away. Master, has your identity been exposed? Run away now. I agree with your idea. It's better to escape as soon as possible. If we're late, it'll be very difficult. Little Black said excitedly. This was all obtained through its intelligent analysis. Bo Jiao arched a brow. So what if your identity is exposed? Who said anything about leaving? What exactly happened when the Almighty drove you away? Tell me in detail. Xiaofan was rather regretful about this. That's all? That day, after the great demon king drove me away, he drove me back to the castle and even bought you a midnight snack on the way. Speaking of which, Master, you must be careful of this little demon of yours. He was willing to be kidnapped by you, and he even wanted to use your guilt to see how you would confess. All of this was premeditated. What plan could there be? As a car, you shouldn't have such rich imagination. Bo Jiao stood beside the car and thought for a moment before asking. He didn't want to leave that day? Little Black answered affirmatively. No. Bo Jiao smiled faintly with a hint of sweetness. The Almighty still likes me, even though my identity is Z. Little Black was helpless. Master, wake up. Your identity has been exposed. You should be considering whether he will catch you or kick you away, not continue to be bewitched by his beauty. He did want to kick me away. Bo Jiao's gaze turned a little further away, like amber. There was a hint of loneliness. After all, liking someone was one thing, but whether he could accept it was another. But as long as he didn't hate her, everything was fine. But based on the current situation, it would probably be difficult for the Almighty to accept her. Xiaofan was right. The most important thing for her to consider now was how she could stay. Bo Jiao stood there, her face tilted, deep in thought. She didn't notice Qin Mo lowering his head to look out of the window on the second floor. When the youngster neared the Lamborghini, Qin Mo's gaze turned cold. The temperature in Qin Mo's gaze had obviously dropped. Of course, he wasn't worried that a certain someone would be able to leave after entering this place. But he didn't want to experience the feeling of being abandoned a second time. Captain, you were looking for me? Hunter walked in. Qin Mo reached out and passed him a form. Hunter's gaze trembled. You want to eliminate number 10? Boss, even though number 10 isn't up to standard in some aspects, we need his abilities. Besides, before Hunter could finish his words, he stopped talking. He knew that his boss wouldn't change his mind so easily. But what happened next was out of Hunter's expectations. No, the entire operation team realized a problem. Wherever the captain appeared, The recruit would definitely appear nearby in less than 5 minutes. Just like now. Running at dusk was their captain's habit. He didn't like to be disturbed. They didn't dare to go near him and would just do whatever they wanted to do. Who would have thought that the recruit, who didn't know what was going on, would take a detour from another path and merge with the team leader? It wasn't that Qin Mo didn't notice a certain someone's actions today. Especially now, that person was smiling faintly as he ran while looking at him. It was hard to ignore. Only Qin Mo could ignore that gaze. If it was someone else, they wouldn't have been able to continue running. There wasn't a standard running track in the military. Instead, they had basic training in the training camp. In order to maintain the best condition of his body, running was as easy as drinking water for Qin Mo. But in the past, he didn't use much time after 10 laps. The soldier beside him didn't understand. Why was he so slow today? Especially when he was on the 5th lap. Young Master Qin glanced to his side. Perhaps because he was disturbed, his brows were slightly furrowed. But young Master Qin didn't say anything. This was too strange. The soldier didn't understand. Hence, such a scene appeared on the training ground. The tall man ran in front of them effortlessly. The youngster who was running with him seemed to be unable to keep up. Under the dusk, the shadows of these two slender figures were elongated. Gradually, there was a change in their breathing. Magician, who was watching from the side, thought that their captain must have disliked the recruit and thought of such a method to mess with him. He had to admit that their captain was too cunning. No matter how arrogant the recruit was, he wouldn't be able to last long in their captain's hands. Their captain was too much. If he wanted someone to leave, he could just say so. Why did he have to use such a method? But just as he had this thought, Chapter 1142. Bo Jiu wasn't prepared. By the time she reacted, she had already knocked into his straight back. His light breath was mixed with the scent of the sun. It seemed to be able to seep into her. The only flaw was the slight pain on the tip of her nose. There wasn't enough oxygen. Qin Mo tilted his head and reached out to support her. His gaze was calm as he took the water prepared by the soldier beside him and placed it by the youngster's lips. Bo Jiu drank 2 mouthfuls, her breathing stabilizing. Qin Mo asked, "Is there a point in following me?" "MH, it's very interesting." Bo Jiu smiled mischievously. Qin Mo glanced at the person in front of him. His tone faint. "I remember saying that you have 1 day to leave. Major General, I passed all the tests and have the right to stay." Bo Jiu had already prepared her excuse. Qin Mo laughed, a little mocking. "Passed all the tests? You don't even know how to fold your blanket." Bo Jiu. She was speechless, his words were too harsh. A few seconds of silence ensued. Qin Mo tilted his head, reaching out for the white towel. Then he pulled the youngster towards him. Bo Jiu was still wondering what the Almighty was doing. The white towel touched her forehead. He was helping her wipe her sweat. Bo Jiu lifted her face even higher and narrowed her eyes in enjoyment. Her face was so handsome and beautiful. Qin Mo regretted his actions. Why did he subconsciously pull this guy over to wipe her sweat? The first thing he saw was her face that was as black as coal. Even so, the side of her face was illuminated by the light. His lips, which were stained with water, seemed to be coated with a layer of gloss. It was hard for anyone to shift their gaze away after looking at it. Qin Mo's eyes deepened, and after a few seconds, he removed the white towel. Bo Jiu realized that there was no one to wipe her sweat. She took 2 steps forward. "Go pack your things." Qin Mo didn't even turn his head. His voice was still calm as he said these few words to her. Bo Jiu arched a brow, leaning to the side. "If I fold the blanket properly, I will pass the test. I won't pack my things." Qin Mo paused and looked over at her. His voice was indifferent. "Up to you." At this moment, the Almighty reminded her of when she had first met him. He wasn't moved by force or persuasion and was hard to get close to. No matter what, he had to think of a way to stay here first. Bo Jiu headed back to the dormitory. First, he spread out the quilt, then according to the steps in his memory, he began to press and shape it. It looked like a simple step. She also followed the instructions in the tutorial. In the end, It was still soft and floppy, not qualified at all. It was still a long way from becoming a piece of tofu. Bo Jiu finally understood why some students felt that they shouldn't do anything during military training. It was a spirit. The quilt's requirements were indeed too high. Time passed little by little. The quilt on the bed was folded and unfolded. The whole dormitory was very quiet. Only the sound of the second hand turning could be heard. The sun had completely set in the west. Only the halos left behind could form a slender figure. The figure was lying on the ground with a spear resting on its shoulder. The muzzle of the spear was aimed at a certain point. When the shot was fired, it went straight for the bull's eye. 5 consecutive shots, each one within the 10-ring range. His shooting posture was perfect and smooth. It was as though he had become one with the surroundings. Even his breathing followed the direction of the spear. His face was handsome and elegant. Even though he was in the bushes, it didn't affect his unique aura. It was Qin Mo. The elite recruits from the various troops finally saw the legendary hidden shooting. With a single point of the spear, no one was around. For them, shooting accurately was not difficult at all. The most stunning part was the silent shooting and the unstoppable movements. Prince watched from the side. He retracted his gaze and looked at the Lamborghini not far away. It seemed like he didn't just have a background. A regiment commander had come to pick him up. It was enough to show his capabilities. That was what Prince was thinking before Qin Mo put on his military jacket. When he saw the man in front of him put on his military jacket and walk towards them, Prince was stunned by the tassel on his shoulder. That was a major general. So young. He was a major general. That wasn't possible. Prince found it unbelievable. In the military, one's ability depended on one's age. This person was too young. Unless he had completed a secret mission outside the borders and achieved great merits. Otherwise, it wasn't possible for him to be a major general. The 50 recruits were stunned by Qin Mo's performance. You weren't fast enough and the range of your movements was too large. You'll have to practice 50 more rounds today. After Qin Mo finished his sentence, Mo Chen looked at Qin Mo. Half of the recruits were out of energy. But here, obeying orders was the only requirement. It was impossible not to know that there was one less person in the team. Especially the comrades who had been working together for the past 2 days. Prince had asked his captain twice where Bo Jiu had gone. During the break, he couldn't help but ask again. This time, it wasn't his captain who answered him. Instead, it was the faint and deep voice that rose behind him. It sounds like you care a lot about number 10. Prince paused. He hadn't expected his boss to speak to him, the one who controlled the entire troop. After witnessing the other party's shooting, Prince had already treated him as his own fighting spirit. He didn't notice the deep look in Qin Mo's eyes when he spoke. Prince saluted. Reporting, number 10 has been away from the team for a long time. I would like to know what happened. Failed internal affairs. Qin Mo buttoned the last button on his military jacket. The aura of abstinence assaulted his senses. Prince didn't know how to finish his sentence. But it was also because Bo Jiu's actions were too eye-catching. Especially in this military exercise, he was too outstanding. She was so outstanding that it was hard not to notice her. When the senior official heard that there was such a recruit, he was called over by the ice-cold youngster who was the most difficult to manipulate. After the meeting, he didn't even drink his tea. Instead, he asked someone to call Qin Mo. In the military, Qin Mo's etiquette was on point. The moment he saw someone, his first action was to salute. It was straightforward and clean. But even so, his aura couldn't lie. Some senior officials had also said that Qin Mo was probably the soldier who didn't look like a soldier the most. What's wrong with number 10? I heard that you talked to him alone? The senior official continued, no matter what the problem is, let me say this first. There are so many good seedlings this time. You didn't say a word and kicked half of them away. Now, there are only a few of them left. Don't kick them away casually, especially number 10. Think of a way to keep him. Qin Mo didn't give a clear answer. We'll talk about it after he passes the internal affairs test. Isn't it just because he doesn't know how to fold his blanket? I heard the report before I came. It's nothing. You aren't required to fold your blankets during a mission. The senior official tried to persuade him. Even though the ice-cold youngster was his soldier, he had never listened to him in this aspect. Most importantly, the soldiers here. In the past, they were all troublemakers. Some of them came from powerful families and were thrown into a certain military unit. They were capable but weren't easy to discipline. Some of them were special talents with arrogance and weren't easy to tame. After these people met the ice-cold youngster, they were all very obedient. During the days when Qin Mo wasn't in the military, he was the one who was the most troubled. These people knew how to create trouble. Many people weren't willing to take over this mission because of this reason. It was indeed good to gain merits, but once Qin Mo left, these rascals would be in a mess. Who could stand it? This rascal was indeed very vicious when it came to judging people. The people he picked rarely got into trouble. He just loved to let people go. Thinking up to this point, the senior official reminded Qin Mo, "I don't care about the others, but number 10 must stay with me. I'll see." After Qin Mo said these two words, he stood up, straightened his military cap and saluted. The senior official was angry but he couldn't do anything about it. He had said so much, but this rascal didn't even give him a definite answer. It seemed like it was useless for him to keep number 10. After dusk, the weather started to get gloomy. The training wasn't over yet. The aroma of the food in the canteen could be smelled from afar. After Qin Mo came out from the bureau chief's office, he paused for a moment and tilted his head to look at the exhausted recruits. 50 rounds of crawling forward shooting was never a joke. After practicing like this, some people just wanted to drink a big cup of hot water. Their stomachs would definitely be hungry. After all, it was time to eat. After taking a look, Qin Mo returned to his place. He started to analyze all the new members. But after he opened the information, there was no reply for a long time. The psychologist who came to deliver food to Qin Mo also realized this problem. He was more or less shocked. After all, no matter what happened, boss never got stuck when analyzing people. After looking for a while, the psychologist was about to speak. Just then, Qin Mo's voice rang out casually. "I don't have any psychological problems. I can carry out missions any time, if that's what you're here to ask." The psychologist choked. Every time he faced his boss, everything he learned seemed to be returned to the books. He thought for a moment and decided to change the topic to lower his boss's guard. "I heard there's a new recruit in our team. He wiped out an entire team alone and he's a technical soldier. Such a person is suitable for the operation team." "Boss, didn't you always say that Fatty's stamina couldn't keep up? Now that we have this recruit, since he can cross the jungle and is familiar with field operations, his stamina shouldn't be a problem. This is a good thing." After the psychologist finished speaking, he wanted to change the topic. Unexpectedly, Qin Mo had already stood up. He looked down at him with his tall and slender figure. "Don't waste your time thinking of a topic. The person you're talking about is in the elimination list." Psychologist, he understood that today wasn't a suitable day to talk to his boss. There were usually 3 types of situations with his boss. The first type was when he was indifferent no matter what he said. The second type was when he closed his eyes and listened to him. The third type was like the one he was facing now. It was a professional book review that dealt a huge blow to his confidence. However, if it was the third type, it meant that his boss's emotions were fluctuating. Did something happen in the past 2 days? The psychologist frowned. He couldn't figure it out. It wasn't his fault that he couldn't figure it out. No one else could tell who recruit number 10 was. However, now that his boss had left, he could only eat the food that the psychologist had brought. Bing, who was following behind Qin Mo, thought that young Master Qin didn't want to see the doctor and wanted to eat at the cafeteria. What he didn't expect was, the moment he came out, young Master Qin asked, "Where is she?" "Him." "Who?" The soldier thought for a while before realizing that young Master Qin was talking about that brave recruit. Reporting, number 10 has been in the dorm the entire time and hasn't come out. Qin Mo's slender fingers paused for a moment before he walked in a certain direction. The soldier looked up. It was clearly in the direction of the recruit dormitories. He wanted to go with them. But it was obvious that young Master Qin didn't want him to follow. The soldier was well behaved and stood guard downstairs. He knew that the more talented young Master Qin met, the stricter he would be. But this time, it didn't seem to be the case. The soldier was puzzled, his brows knitted together, but he couldn't think of a reason. In the dormitory, Bo Jiu was still struggling with the quilt on the bed. In the end, a glint flashed across her eyes. She smiled, looking especially handsome and mischievous. After almost a minute, she looked over. The quilt, which was hard to form, was placed at the corner of the bed. From the side, it looked even more formal than the wolf's fangs. The shape of a tofu block was the standard in the military. Bo Jiu stuffed one hand into her pocket and took out her phone with the other. She was prepared to send a photo to the Almighty for verification.
Kacha.
The photo was just formed. The door was pushed open. Bo Jiu didn't turn back. She thought it was her roommate. She lowered her head, preparing to send a message. The phone in her hands was snatched away. Bo Jiu didn't need to look up. She knew who it was just by looking at the slender hands. She felt guilty for a moment. She glanced at the quilt on the bed and turned, a confused smile on her face. Reporting, "I know how to fold the quilt." "Is that so?" Qin Mo arched a brow. He walked towards the bed, his gaze landing on the angular, square-shaped quilt. Then he bent his waist slightly. There wasn't a single crease on his uniform. From this position, his face was extremely handsome. Bo Jiu wanted to look a little longer. Qin Mo pulled with one hand. The quilt was instantly torn apart. The small branches inside were scattered on the bed. But Qin Mo was cunning. He acted as though he didn't see the branches. He said faintly, "Fold one for me to see." Chapter 1143. Bo Jiu was starting to feel a little frustrated. But Qin Mo just stood there, his long legs crossed and his back leaning against the bed frame. His eyes looked like high-quality amber under the light. He was obviously waiting for her to make a move. Bo Jiu accepted her fate. She rolled up her sleeves and walked over. "Sir, I would like to know where I exposed myself." Her disguise skills weren't bad. The quilt wouldn't be seen through immediately. Qin Mo swept her a glance, a faint smile on his face. "You aren't the only soldier I have." This meant that the people the Almighty had brought had many tricks up their sleeves. "Your work is indeed exquisite. At least you didn't use something like a mineral water bottle that can be seen at a glance." When Qin Mo said this, he tilted his head and lit a cigarette, looking at her just like that. Bo Jiu didn't feel that it was a compliment. Anyway, she had been exposed. She had never felt so awkward before. Since she was folding it on the spot, Bo Jiu decided to return to her original self. Her movements were swift. One fold, another fold, and another fold. She didn't care if the quilt was formed. Her posture was handsome, the sound of the wind when she lifted the quilt. In the end, the quilt was pushed into a ball. But it was only pushed into a ball. Qin Mo tapped his fingers on it, saying slowly, "Is this what you mean by you know how to fold the quilt? Ordinary people do it this way." Bo Jiu wasn't unable to take care of herself. She just hadn't been exposed to military life and knew how to fold tofu. No one was perfect. Qin Mo retracted his hand, his expression unchanged. "This is the military." 5 words. Bo Jiu paused. Then she removed the quilt. This time, when she lowered her head, she was much more serious than before. Even her brows were furrowed. She used her fingers to look at her handsome face. It was a stark contrast to how obedient she was. This scene was strangely familiar to Qin Mo. However, compared to these, his gaze was more focused on that person's furry head. When he hadn't seen her, he had assumed she had left. She couldn't even analyze the recruits. Hence, her presence would only distract him. Bo Jiu was folding the quilt seriously. She didn't notice Qin Mo's expression. Just as she was about to fold the quilt in one piece, suddenly, his left hand was pressed down. Then, the familiar minty tobacco fragrance drifted over from behind. It was so light and cold that it could easily make one's heart tighten. "Who taught you to do this?" Qin Mo tilted his head, speaking into her ears. "Line up the lines." That posture. From the side, it looked as though he was hugging her. The two of them were very close to each other. He was so close that Bo Jiu smiled when she saw his handsome face. When he was young, he had taught him how to fold things. But at that time, He was folding dumplings. MMH, Bojio had always felt that making dumplings was just stacking dumplings. Her whole face was a mess, but she still couldn't learn it. It seemed that she was really not very good at handicrafts. Bojio tilted her head, glancing at his side profile. Because of the light, the bridge of his nose and chin were so white that they seemed to glow. How did she learn to fold her blanket when he was so handsome? She only cared about looking at him. It was the same when she made dumplings when she was young. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.